in what may be a shocking poll to each and every one of you. The majority of Americans now believe that Joe Biden is not competent. I know. Calm down. I hope you are sitting down for this one because there's more. Another poll found that Kamala Harris was also not competent. This has been a tough day for all of us. We've been, Ian was crying when he found out.
I wasn't polled, which was the worst part.
He's competent.
All I wanted for Christmas.
I don't think anybody should be surprised by this polling considering everything that's happening. Look, he's not answering questions about Afghanistan. He's muttering and sputtering. He's not giving, he's done a few of these, press events. But there was one instance where I guess he got asked a question and then he went, wait, I thought the question was anyway, like the journalist agreed to a question like it was all pre-planned, but then they threw him a curveball and he was like, and everyone's joking like, well, that journalist is never getting invited again. Yeah, because Joe Biden can't handle spontaneous questions. Do you guys remember when he was like, they're going to get mad at me for answering questions. Yeah. So, yeah, we have this to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. The FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine. There's a lot to talk about there because as much as for a lot of people, they're probably excited to hear, there's, we're waiting for FDA approval. It means we're going to see a lot more vaccine mandates, which I think absolutely cross the line. And this is where things start getting creepy and weird. And then we got the recall election. Recall Gavin Newsom. And Larry Elder, who has been smeared as the black face of white supremacy because, of course, as you know, we live in a Dave Chappelle sketch. So this should be fun. So joining us today is Chris Karr, executive editor for Timcast.com.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a thrill to be here. It's super exciting. I love being here. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm an introvert. I'm a writer. So I'm going to work on speaking.
Right on.
But yeah, so prior to that, I was a news reporter in Southern California for the Epoch Times. So I'm used to California shenanigans. I was talking to Sarah Patch earlier. I said I'm a bit desensitized to the insanity coming out of California. But I look forward to talking about that, among other things.
Right
Thanks
on.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are wondering, executive editor means he makes sure the website's working and all the news articles are going up. So we decided, let's promote some of what we're doing here, man. We got Chris is great, helping make sure all the news articles are going up on time. If you go to timcast.com, you can check all that stuff out. And we are expanding and building and hiring more journalists. And it's all new. It's all new. So we're getting there. But we got stuff coming. We got Ian.
What up? Hey, is it confirmed that it's called Epoch Times and not Epic Times?
Both pronunciations are correct. I say epoch because I'm from Appalachia. So that's, just naturally where my accent goes.
Oh, and now you're back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Welcome
exactly.
home.
Happy to be back. Yeah,
Right
totally.
on.
Right on.
All right, well, there you go.
Good to be here. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I guess we're doing the vlog more and more.
Yeah.
Production's been ramping up, and we got the music equipment for the new studio, and the latest vlog, Ian jamming out. People are.
And I can hear it when we do a jam night the next day. My voice is like
fried.
Yeah.
But
Stretched.
we're trying really hard to get these live events ready to go. So we might just have to try and duct tape some kind of live event together because we've been
can do
waiting.
it now.
Yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards because we've been trying to do it for months and we've been jammed up with red tape and lack of duct tape. So maybe we just make it happen.
Right. We moved a bunch of instruments into the green room. So we had a bunch in the garage, kind of out with the 3D printer equipment, but it was really a lot of stuff in a little room, so it was hard to jam out there and get really humid. So last night we moved everything down to the studio, the green room, and it's a nice chill spot, so we could have like 20 or 30 people chilling down there and listening.
That's always been the plan, is like mix it up, but there's bureaucratic stuff holding us up, so I think we just got to figure it out. But we will. We got Lydia pressing all the buttons.
I am indeed pressing all the buttons. I'm really excited to be sitting in a room full of all my coworkers. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to what Chris has to say. We're having fun talking before the show.
Yes, that's right. All right, but my friends, before we get into all of that news, we have an amazing sponsor. We have BioTrust's Keto Elevate C8 MCT oil powder. Now, accidentally, I find myself doing the keto diet. It's just because we did this crab day thing where we went and bought a bunch of crab, which is all like protein, and then we bought a bunch of meat and cheese to make like a charcuterie thing. And so that was all I ended up eating, and whipped cream and fruits and stuff. And then I just find myself feeling better, cutting down the sugars dramatically. And so I've been really ramping up this stuff. I love this stuff, the BioTrust Keto Elevate. It's a medium chain triglyceride powder. Put in my coffee. It's almost like a creamer. It's fantastic. And then I just put a little heavy cream in there. It's amazing. I love it. So go to eatrightandfeelwell.com. You can get 51% off of your order of Keto Elevate MCT oil powder. then when you go to their website, eatrightandfeelwell.com, you get a 60-day money-back guarantee. Keto Elevate provides your body with only C8, the most ketogenic MCT. That means it provides support for energy levels, healthy appetite management, mental clarity and focus, athletic performance. 5 grams of the highly sought-after MCT C8 per scoop. Keto Elevate is my favorite MCT powder on the market. That is true. Free shipping on every order. And for every order today, BioTrust donates a nutritious meal to a hungry child in your honor through their partnership with NoKidHungry.org. To date, BioTrust has provided over 5 million meals to hungry kids. Please help BioTrust hit their goal of 6 million meals this year. And you get free VIP live health and fitness coaching with BioTrust from BioTrust team of expert nutrition and health coaches for life with every order. That's massive. And their new e-report, the top 14 ketogenic foods with every order. Now, I will add one more thing. Go to eatrightandfeelwell.com. But I saw you guys in the chat. Somebody was saying that Tim fidgets all the time. And they were making fun of me because I'm always like, moving around and stuff. Yeah, it's got too much energy. It's true, though. Putting that Keto Elevate, I feel like, I'm just so energized. And no, I really do fidget a lot. It's hard for me to sit still because I'm like ready to go. I'm ready to, But also, head over to timcast.com, become a member. We're going to have a members-only segment coming up after the show. Usually goes up around 11 or so p.m. And you will also get an ad-free experience and support our amazing team of journalists and our expansion to hire more and more journalists. So check that out. Now, let's get in. Oh, wait. Smash the like button, subscribe, share the show. Now, let's get into that story from timcast.com. Majority of Americans no longer believe that Biden is competent. Do you know, if it wasn't on timcast.com, I'd almost assume this article was fake news. You know why? It implies that at some point people did believe Joe Biden was competent.
Right.
So now they don't? This is the one thing. Well, you know what it is that people live in the media. So when the media is saying Biden's great, everyone's like, okay. And now that he's botching Afghanistan and the media is criticizing him, now the people who don't pay attention are all of a sudden shocked to realize, but he's doing bad? And isn't it funny how these polls track with the mainstream media narrative? They say, according to a new poll from CBS, 51% believe that Biden is not a competent commander-in-chief. Well, 49% believe that he is. I'd like to meet at least one of these 49%. Who are these people that believe, after everything we've seen? The pollsters also found that 52% of likely voters do not feel the president has been focused. Who's this 48% that has heard the man speak and heard the word true and anashapata pressure and decided that was focused?
I know those people. They're my family. They're my friends. There's tons of people.
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and I don't think you could throttle them into reality. I really don't.
Yeah.
And that's really sad, and it's unfortunate for me because it's cost me friendships. It's cost me a lot. But I those 49% of people do exist, and I don't think that they're necessarily willing to wake up to what's actually happening.
Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah,
we've got these baby chicks. Okay, we had I think 14 eggs, and we're not good at what we're doing, so most of them didn't make it, but 3 of them did, and they're actually pretty spunky and strong, and they are scared to leave their little brooder box. It's safe. It's warm. Now, one of them though is always like peeking out, and it wants. There's one that one that's brave, and that's what this reminds me of. The 2 out of the 3, they're like scared and they're just like, I don't want to leave. It's warm and safe. Don't make me go. I don't want to go into the real world. And I look at them and I'm like, they would have voted for Joe Biden. It's just easy. Right. You don't got to think. It's like, we hear from these YouTubers like, you don't even got to think. You just go to the website and it's all done for you. Here's where this is interesting. The CBS poll was conducted as Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, and 53% disagreed with the way that the troops were withdrawn. 70% said the removal of troops could have been handled better, along with 55% who said some troops could have stayed, according to Breitbart News. Now, the sad part is, we'll go to the bottom. There's a couple things here. Rasmussen found that 55% of voters believe Harris is not qualified to assume the duties of the presidency, including 47% who said she is not qualified at all.
Wow.
Jeez.
That's harsh.
What 43% of likely voters believed she is ready to be the president, way down from 49 back in April. A couple interesting things. Civics shows Joe Biden's job approval by state. In almost every single state, Joe Biden is underwater with disapproval. It is California, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Hawaii, Oregon, Illinois, Rhode Island, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Washington that have a positive view of Joe Biden. Yeah. Basically blue states.
Of course. Count on it.
The craziest thing about all this, I suppose, is it's independent voters are driving all of this. Republicans hate Biden, and Democrats love Biden, and that's not changing. But independent voters are shifting away. 57% disapprove of Joe Biden. So I don't know what this means. I mean, maybe we'll get a 25th Amendment.
I'm really shaken with his behavior in the last couple of weeks. It's nice to see the polls like this catching up. I don't know. Did you catch how many people were polled, or if it was like a nationwide poll?
Well, Civics is 91,514 responses,
Nice.
but that's
Yeah.
over a couple of years. I don't know. I can pull up the CBS one though.
When this Afghanistan thing went down, I don't know if it was intentional and they're like, you're going to make us pull out? Fine, we'll show you what a pullout looks like. Here, suck it. Or if it was just Biden is such a poor military commander. He's the commander in chief of the U.S. Armed Forces. He's such a poor military commander that he just didn't understand tactics. Like, you leave air support in while you move people out on the ground. It could have been a 3-month process moving people out.
He had all year,
And they rushed
he
it.
knew. So it's 2,142 adults with a margin of error of plus 2.3%. 2,000. That's a big sample. That's a big sample.
I got like a pang of fear thinking, what if this stupid Chinese boogeyman, the CCP, but like if there was some sort of like coordinated invasion right now with Biden at the helm, if he really isn't a good commander, and then we have to fight a war, we lose because the commander misappropriates. The first days are the most, vulnerable moments in a war.
You know what I think? People that were saying that Afghanistan has revealed the emperor has no clothes. And you know what was crazy to me is this realization, because I've actually, even though I know Joe Biden's kind of like, not all with it, I still felt like, people say like, oh, who's Biden's handler? Who's really pulling the strings? Oh, it's going to be Kamala. And you see Afghanistan, and it's like, dude, they're legit following Biden. And so when Biden mutters, stutters, and stammers and falls asleep, they just sit there. Like, I genuinely thought there were people like picking up the slack for Biden. After all this, it's like people were MIA. Like, where was Kamala? She wasn't speaking. Now you've got this video where she's walking out, and the reporter's like, I want to ask you about the people, and she's like, no.
Gosh.
And people are like, why is she laughing? She laughs at really weird times. She's a weird person. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think that Biden did have people picking up the slack for him, and I'm afraid that the people who were doing that for Joe were people like Mark Milley, people who were focused on things like white rage instead of what it would have been like to pull out properly.
I think Mark Milley is an example of the fact that Biden's just sleeping in his. They probably walk in the Oval Office. And he's like, and then Mark Milley's like, yes, no one's gonna fire me now because Biden's asleep. He can't do it unless he wakes up.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, how do we have these people? Woke generals, chaos. It's the end of the American empire.
I forget which commentator I listened to mention this, but you just see Joe Biden, you see him walking away from these press conferences, you see him walking up to the podium. This is not the face of a healthy democracy. It just, it's painful to watch. It really is. And I feel those pangs that you're talking about when I see him speak. And it's at a certain point, it's not even funny. Like, some people still just kind of want to pile on to him and make fun of him. And it's not funny. It feels like he is genuinely struggling to put together a sentence, to put together a perspective, and to lead the nation. And
how is it only now? I guess I made the point, right? People were following the media, but only now these independent voters are like, maybe this, 78-year-old, he's going to be 79 soon, 78-year-old guy who can't talk well, there's something wrong with him.
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think it was? It was the straw that broke the camel's back? Essentially, was it Afghanistan, or was it just like this was the final thing, the latest thing that's really just made people kind of see what's happening?
This is what's scary about it, is that it's whatever CNN tells them.
Yeah,
and CNN's like, Biden's great, and they're like, okay. And now Afghanistan, like, CNN wants war. War is good for the bottom line for all these media companies. Now they're like, oh, he really messed this one up, and now regular people are like, CNN said he messed it up, so he did. There you go. The funny thing is, he hasn't lost. The Civics poll shows Biden hasn't lost a single percentage point from Democrats since the fall of Kabul till today. Like, it's a cult.
I wish I could say it surprised me, honestly, but it doesn't. And it is a cult. Yeah, I see that.
Here's the thing about Trump. Trump was giving a speech, and he told everyone to go get the vaccine, and they booed him.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing like, oh, jeez. But doesn't that prove it's not a cult?
Yes.
Even Trump's most diehard supporters are like, no, Trump.
You're wrong.
That to me, that says a lot. And I think that shows that Trump is the avatar for that working class anger. These people are not blindly following Trump. A lot of them are. For
Yeah,
sure.
a lot of them are.
A lot of, but to boo him when he said that, there's
Based.
yeah, they said no, Trump is not the end all be all, but Biden, people just say go Biden. Sam Harris tweeted something. You guys know Sam Harris?
Yeah.
And he was like, unlike the Trump supporters that blindly just defend Trump, I'm going to criticize Joe Biden. It's like, oh, you're so brave. You and CNN criticizing Joe Biden. Wow, for once.
That's really unfortunate about Sam Harris. I really think that he's one of the public intellectuals who got broken in some sense during the lockdown. I think something like triggered in his brain, and he hasn't recovered in some sense. Because used to, I would be able to listen to him, and I would hear coherent thoughts even when I disagreed. But lately, he's just been on some sort of bandwagon that doesn't even follow up with a lot of the stuff he used to claim.
What happened to people?
I know. Yeah, I got a story about that actually, and this is it really hit home with me because, my best friend of 15 years, we've been best friends for a really long time, and I sent him a text message. And I was like, "Did you see the key to NYC situation?
The vaccine pass."
Yeah, and well, he's a Chicago guy, blue pill all the way, Lori Lightfoot supporter, still, I told him about the Key to NYC program. I was like, "You saw this, right?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fucking great." Oh, sorry. That's what he said. He said, "This is effing great," and I was just like, "This is fascism." He said, I don't care if it is. I love it. This is exactly what needs to happen. These mandates need to be in a place, and people need to follow in line or not." And I said, "I didn't realize that you were a fascist. I hadn't realized you became radicalized."
Yeah.
And he said, "Chris, we're going to have to disagree on this." And I said, No, we're not disagreeing. You're disagreeing with the definition of fascism."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Do you want to still be friends, or are you going to let this go? It's a simple question." I got his answer. I mean, but it's not just...
Tell him to screw off?
No. I haven't heard from him since, and I didn't message him back. Actually, I did message him. I said, "That sounds exactly like something a fascist would say."
There you go.
But these kind of derangement fits happen on personal levels, and they also happen in these kind of national displays, like on Twitter. And I see more and more of that, and it's really disturbing to me.
I love this reference I used, the Galaxy Quest one. You guys have seen Galaxy Quest?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Totally.
Tony Shalhoub's character is just like laughing. They're TV actors on a spaceship. They're gonna die, and he's just like, "I guess we're gonna die. Whatever." He's laughing. That's kind of how I feel about everything. Not to like downplay it, but people often say like, "How did Nazi Germany get to the point to violate Godwin's law outright? How did Nazi Germany get to that point?" It's like, bro, you're sitting here right now. Like, New York is mandating identification and proof of vaccination to enter a restaurant. It's like, I get it. If you're concerned about your health and there's a medication, it's FDA approved, hey, congratulations. You can go to a doctor and you can figure it out for yourself. But for the city to be like, fire all of your disabled employees, like, we've certainly crossed the line here. Yeah. And what's funny is, like, you mentioned about your friend. They're cheering for it.
Yeah,
they love it. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy?
They feel like their tribe is winning, right? I mean, isn't there some sort of like very basic tribal element to this?
Yeah, man. But but there's no. I guess these people don't understand that they're not in the actual tribe of elitism. Those that run the systems and are locking everything down will throw them into the gutter at a moment's notice. But so they're just standing there gloating, saying, "Haha, I'm on the winning team," and I'm like, I don't care leave me alone. Yeah. You can go, like, I feel like I'm watching a hockey game and they're like just playing really aggressive and I'm not playing the game, and I'm like, just get away from me, and they're trying to throw me into the rink to play, and I'm like, no. They just and now they're throwing stuff at the stands, and I'm like, why are you throwing stuff at me? Like, I got nothing to do with your game, dude.
Would you fight to protect people that hated you?
That's a good question. I guess there's a lot of nuance in that question, though. I don't know how to answer it.
Like, if you're destined to be a villain, even if you protect the people.
If there was like if there was like an Antifa guy, and he was like yelling and cussing at me, and then like, he was like walking away and a car was speeding at him full speed, I'd probably try and save him.
Yeah. That's the G.I. Joe in you.
Well, it's just like dude, you're allowed to hate me, man. Like if the guy's not being violent if he was violent towards me, I'd probably run away. I'd probably be like, nah, I'm not going to get anywhere near this guy. Well, it's not a good idea. But if there was like someone who was like, "I hate you, you're dumb," and then I saw a car coming, I'd be like, "Look out," and I'd try and save him. So there's a difference between being violent towards you and hating you, I suppose. That's where there's some nuance there. Yeah, if they're like throwing rocks at me, I'd just be like, no, I'm not going anywhere near that guy. You know.
What about you, Ian? Based on your question, what would you do?
Yeah, I would.
You
It's pretty
would?
thankless. Also, I wonder, like, if you're preserving, like, low intelligence humans that just eat and reproduce and then starve out the system, if you're actually doing a disservice to the species. I don't know.
You're
It's
asking
weird.
dangerous questions.
Right. It's very
Yeah.
ethical and, like,
Yeah.
what's the genetic, what's that?
Eugenics?
Yeah, eugenic.
yeah,
It's a very
not
eugenic way to
epigenetics,
look
yeah.
at, like, should they
they're-
live or should they die? But I mean, that's basically what governments do.
And I'll tell you this for a fact, that these powerful interests have asked themselves these questions. No doubt about it. Because when we had Alex Jones here, I asked him that question on the show. What if the all of this stuff about the end, the end and overpopulation is true, and we as humans are just yeast in a bottle, consuming all the resources and farting ourselves to death? And he said, Alex said, he's like, I ask myself that question all the time, but how do you answer it? It's a legitimate question. The problem is, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, you got to defend freedom and liberty. No individual person is going to be smart enough to steer the ship properly, and we can rely on human nature, which has always found solutions through ingenuity and invention, or we can just hand it off some despot authoritarian who we know through history has always oppressed, murdered, and punished. It's tough, man. Because we're at like 8 billion people. There's like insect populations declining. There's dead zones in the ocean. And the point you brought up is actually brought up by a lot of people. There's a lot of conspiracy theory people write about how the elites view humans as useless eaters. They don't contribute anything. They don't do anything. They just consume, make waste, and reproduce. And so there's some very difficult questions in that. How many people do you know, and everyone probably does, who do nothing? Literally nothing. Or they work a job that's just like not
Borderline
beneficial.
vestigial. Yeah, like insurance.
Well, people bring up a good point about insurance brokers for like big corporations when you have specialty contracts, that I understand. But there are probably a lot of jobs that don't do anything for the system at all. Probably tons of them that are just like, well, you got to have a job, I guess.
Right. Banking's weird. That's a weird.
Maybe we're advancing to the point where we can say that. I think banking makes sense. I think central banking has corrupted the whole process. That's a different thing.
Yeah. The profit motive of banking is pretty weird.
Yeah.
I understand not wanting to get screwed on your loan, so you charge, a little bit of interest, but to try and get rich off of
extracting value from the system without contributing anything to that system. Right. So I always complain about people who, or I should say I complain about how the government's printing a lot of money, giving it to people so they're able to buy stuff, take food and resources from the system without putting anything in. And that creates a trade imbalance, a production imbalance, which eventually causes collapse. And but we see that with a lot of people in financial jobs. They make bets, they extract from the system, they don't do anything. But that's I want to stay on what you asked, Ian, because let's just take a few minutes and get philosophical real quick before we jump over to the California stuff. What do you do if that's true, Ian? What do you do if you have 7 billion people who don't contribute anything? They eat and they pollute and they destroy.
Jeez, dude. You have to build a system that allows for that behavior so that solves the problem with taking into account the unchangeable human problem, which is that we're wild animal consumers, destructors. So you build a system where it's okay to be destructive and consumers. Like, you need massive expansion capability. You need unlimited access or relatively unlimited access to resources like food.
Is it possible?
Yeah, it just takes a lot of like redesigning of the system. Like, we need fusion power, we need magnetic transportation, we need to be able to zing from place to place.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That if you look at history, the crises we've always faced have been solved by technology. And the authoritarians who are always screaming at the problems have always just mass murdered people. So if I'm going to sit here and be like, what should we do? I'd be like, invent stuff, engineering, scientific research and development, not handing over the reins of government to crackpot despots, people like in the Democratic Party and the neocons, formerly of the Republican Party, because they'll just burn it down. It's faster and easier, I guess.
And if you come out independently and say, I want to burn it down, then the system seeks you out as like a danger and will incarcerate or destroy you, I've found too. So there's either you join them and then give up and that's you lose, or you try and you just give up on your own and then you lose because you look like you're messing with their version of how to destroy the situation, or how to, you can't be the famous one doing it. That's too dangerous for the power structure. So I think the only way is to help the people, is to give them a chance.
Yeah, I think we got to rely on development.
Well, you're talking about helping people, like people that are in need,
like people that can't help themselves, like that aren't critical thinkers, that are draining on the system, having seven kids. It's kind of like just a fictitious idea of people in my head.
I don't know. No, it's not fictitious at all.
No, but I don't think the 7 kids is the issue. I think it's that I know tons of people who sit around doing literally nothing. Like they go out, they eat, they party, and they go home and they don't do anything, and their jobs are like menial, and I have no issue with their life choices and the life they live and what they choose to live, because I'm not going to sit here and decide what is or isn't more important in anyone's life, right? Like, oh, you relaxing and doing garbage work is, well, that's how they choose to live their life. But certainly there's a mathematical equation that at a certain point you're like, we have 50 billion people and the planet's about to implode or something like that. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not true. Maybe we'll never get to that point.
Maybe it's just tunnels.
But maybe it's just fear mongering so that people give up control to lazy people who don't want to work. I look at these, you know what I see when I see like these ultra wealthy people? Laziness. Now I know it sounds contradictory, right? And it's often like a leftist trope. But the reason why a lot of the powerful elites, I'm not saying every single one, want power is they don't want to do anything. It's like, because there's no point at which you have money that you can just stop and relax. Never. It never happens. And so there are people who are like, how can I just get to that point where me and my friends don't have to do anything anymore? Authoritarianism.
Slaves.
Yeah, just if you have supreme power over people, then you truly can relax and not have to work.
I don't think that you can ever actually really relax and not have to work, though. I mean, you might have that perception, you might think that that's possible, but ultimately you're going to find that you have a purposeless life. And once you sense that, either consciously or unconsciously, you're going to start to act out and probably lash out at people around you.
But what about, there's so many, I guess you're right. Yeah. Probably, maybe the issue is this. There's a lot of people with purposeless lives, and we've talked about this before, and that's why you're seeing the rise of wokeness.
Right. People in power with purposeless lives. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to an anecdote from Jordan Peterson when he was working with somebody in his clinical practice, and he was just like, well, what do you want to do with your life? He's like, well, I just want to relax on the beach and, drink margaritas all day. And he was just like, that's not a plan. That's not even a poster, I mean, it sounds so great in theory, but in practice, it does not work out, not just for the person themselves, but for the people that surround them, their family, their friends, their acquaintances. It spins out of control at some point.
This is the craziest thing about the anti-work subreddit. Have you guys ever seen this?
No.
r/anti-work. What? It's crazy how they view work. It's like, do you just want to melt into a chair and cease to exist? Work is life. And I don't mean like working at McDonald's. I mean like your goals, your passion, your mission. It's all you doing work. People don't understand this. There's no distinction between, in the long run, work and hobby or leisure. Like, if you wake up every day and you work really hard on skateboarding, that work can pay off. It's just mind-blowing to me that people are like, I don't want to work. So what are you going to do all day? Eat food. What? You could be a competitive eater. Congratulations. Like, I don't understand. Like, what you're doing is work. Yeah.
Yeah, work is a scientific, I'm looking up the actual scientific definition of it right now, but I believe it's just the transition of energy into power, the production of power through, what is it, in joules? You can measure work in joules, I believe. What I'm saying is this is work. I'm producing work to move this back and forth. The question is, do you enjoy the work you're doing? You can sit still and you're still working. So if you like what you're doing, it doesn't feel exhausting. Work doesn't have to be negative and exhausting. It can be super fun. That's the key. I think you're always going to be working on something, even if it's just sitting there trying to stay sane.
I think we've got a bunch of elites who basically believe what you just said to start off this little bit, that there's a lot of people who just eat and don't do anything and they're a problem. And so they're like, let's just strip the system down.
They're not creative enough to be like, how do we fix this? How do we solve for this problem? They're just like, eradicate the problem.
Yeah.
That's fucking dangerous, man.
Yeah.
I will say the remote work now from the lockdowns is a good thing. You know why?
Yeah.
Parents are going to be with their kids.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Before it was like, your kids are being raised by the state. That's a problem. Now with remote work, we saw there's a bunch of funny videos that have emerged. Like there was that guy who was appearing on a news program and his kid walks in and he's like, it's my kid. And then what happened to a woman too. And I'm like, that's good. They're seeing the cameras. The kids are going to learn. They're going to understand the work. Their parents right there with them. I think that's going to have a profoundly positive impact.
We in 2010, 11, I started working on Minds, co-founded Minds with Bill, and we didn't have an office. We would just work from home, and it was the best. It was, for me, I worked in the restaurant industry for a decade or whatever, 15 years. So Bill was like, I want to get an office. I want to just do like the official stereotypical, like, let's start a tech company, let's get an office, we'll have it. And I'm like, dude, it sucks. To the commute blows. So we got an office, it sucked. And the commuting sucked. It cost me like $50 a day in commuting time sometimes.
It drains your time
and then
your energy.
We got rid of it. No more office. You don't need an office, especially a social network doesn't need an office right now. We get to do Slack meetings.
You're literally a social network. I think you have the internal technology to communicate with each other.
Incredible. You just do not need an office. You're almost incentivized not to cut so much cost.
Is it sustainable though? Like what kind of economy are we going to have left if all of our manufacturing goes to China and then all Americans do is run blogs?
Right, because if the power goes out and everyone's in their house in different parts of the country, the workday is over. Like, I don't know what the backup for that is. If you're in an office, at least you can keep working because you're in the room together.
I guess your cell phone still works.
Yeah, you might be able to pull it off with solar panels.
Well, if your phone's charged, you can still talk to people. But the question I'm saying is, we don't make stuff anymore. If people are working remote, the service economy is going to get hit. That's going to be massive. Like, if we're working remotely, we don't need to go to local cafes anymore. So everybody goes to one office building, and then for lunch they all go down to the little restaurants downstairs. But if we're all working remote, you're eating at home. So this is actually one of the contributors to the food shortages that we've been seeing, is that with the lockdowns and people not working, they were cooking more. So they were buying base ingredients from supermarkets, and the shelves were depleted. And so then there was a big surge in orders, but people also weren't working anymore, so that means nobody was making the stuff. But anyway, so it's a big contributing factor when people aren't leaving. So all these restaurants, one by one, are going to start falling. I think I think people don't realize that it's falling apart to the extent that it is. I think like these regular people who for some reason think Biden's competent, man, they're holding on, and it's you know what? I'm confident they're going to have a long fall. But that's not my problem.
Well, it might be because we're all in this together.
Right. It's not just him that's going to be doing the fall.
He's the commander of the strongest military Earth has ever seen that we know of. And he's like flubbing his words, mixing up North and South. Korea doesn't. And
Libya and Syria.
Dude, it's I don't know. I've never been in a war, but sometimes I put my head my mind in the place of someone that isn't being invaded, like a farmer, and once it happens, it's done. Everything is changed in a moment, and there's no warning. Like, I mean, you might get a warning, but back in the day, they didn't get a warning. People just ride up and then they're there. Like, when the power goes out, then you'll start to wonder, like, oh yeah, I should have called my mom 2 days ago, or all the things you should have done.
Should have voted for Trump.
Should have got that extra bottle of water. Should have bought that ammo. Shoulda. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, that's big news too, that Biden apparently banned imports of Russian ammo.
Why?
Yikes.
I don't know.
This
Sanctions.
is economic. What the heck?
And you know, it was funny because we got a bunch of super chats from people, and they were like, "Get ammo now! Biden just banned Russian imports." And I look at my phone, and it's Luke, and he's like, "Get ammo now!" I'm like, Luke, when you get in here? Yeah. Let's talk about what's going on in California, though. This is funny.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our okay. Who was the guy who wrote the story about the clown comes out from behind the stage and tries to warn the audience there's a fire?
Some philosopher.
I don't know. Kierkegaard.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the story. First, Larry Elder brushes off LA Times column that called him the black face of white supremacy. Okay. Clayton Bigsby, the Dave Chappelle sketch, is not real. These people are insane. But this is a really good example of the Kierkegaard story. I think it's Kierkegaard, of the clown. He comes out from backstage where a fire has broken out. And he starts frantically waving to the audience. There's a fire in the back. Everyone get out. And they all start laughing with joy. And the clown gets frustrated and tries desperately to tell them. But the more energetic he gets to warn about the fire that's actually burning on the theater, the more they laugh. And then Kierkegaard says, I imagine that's, how the world will end. That people, I forgot exactly what he said, but the people are going to be laughing, not realizing what's going on around them. Look, Larry Elder might win this one. And I think that would be amazing. He's a libertarian guy. He's a smart fella. And they're pulling out every stop imaginable to try and block Larry Elder from winning in California. Now, here's what you need to understand. Gavin Newsom will get recalled if people vote to recall. If they don't vote for... I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is if you walk in and say recall and walk out, he gets recalled. You don't need necessarily to vote for someone to replace him.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you lived under Newsom, right?
Yeah, I did.
How was that?
I mean, I kind of lived in a renegade county. Orange County isn't quite like L.A. or San Diego. It's certainly not like San Francisco. So Orange County has a long history of fighting back against sort of big metropolises like L.A. I mean, Orange County used to be a part of L.A. and then there was a big fight, and then they broke off, and they were just like, we don't want to have what you guys are doing in L.A. So I had that benefit. So, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, the lockdown was crazy. I mean, it was total and it was complete, and everybody had to wear a mask. I mean, I'll never forget the first time I encountered one of my friends on the sidewalk, and she goes, "The CDC said we can take our masks off." It was the first time I'd seen her without a mask on.
Wow.
Such a sweet lady. But, you know, I mean, I was just like, really? You need the CDC to tell you that outside? When there's, you know, it's 72 degrees every day and you can enjoy, you know, the air and everything. So, I mean, but yeah, that's the mentality out there.
But based on you living under him, you think recall, yeah?
I talked to some political strategists that have that not only have been working California politics for decades, but they are actually actively working with some of the people that are hoping to replace Newsom as governor.
Republicans?
Yeah, Republicans. Yeah, pretty much all of them. And this was probably 4 months ago, and they said, do not misunderstand this. Gavin Newsom will not lose. He will not be recalled. He will not be replaced, period. There's just, but this is back when there was just a bunch of like, you know, kind of half recognizable clown names, you know, they were throwing their hat. There was one guy that was going around California with a bear.
Oh,
you remember this?
No.
Oh yeah. He did like a couple speeches with a bear, but the bear wasn't even a California bear. So that was really embarrassing. So
that was the worst of it. Yeah.
yeah. And the bear was like,
wrong
you know,
kind of bear.
The bear was like, you know, licking itself while he's trying to give a speech. It was, you know.
That's great. I'd love
So
to see
when you see stuff like that, you're just like, okay. I mean, but the political strategists that I talked to would say things like, no, you have to understand that Gavin Newsom, and they spoke off the record, of course. They didn't want me to print what they said. They said, Newsom is such a ruthless, conniving politician that he is absolutely not going to let anybody take over for him as governor. Larry Elder's changing that, and you can see that he's changing that by the total derangement that you're seeing on the LA Times. I mean, I saw a collage the other day. It was like 6 titles. They're just like flinging every piece of pasta that they possibly can at the wall to see what sticks on this guy, and it's not working because Larry Elder makes sense. He's a sane guy.
I know, but like, who in their right mind would call a black man the face of white supremacy?
I don't know.
Well, what is wrong with these people?
I don't know.
This is the world
They're
we
sick.
live in.
They're sick.
Sometimes I feel like the clown running out on the stage and going, ah! And everyone's just laughing. Like, ah. And I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
I wonder about that because I try and have like levity in my life and be kind of a jokester and not take things too seriously. But I wonder if a result of that is that people aren't going to take me seriously when I'm screaming about the fall, the danger that we're looking at. I don't know.
Let me read a little bit of this. They say the LA Times published a column on Friday titled "Larry Elder is the blackface of white supremacy. You've been warned." Oh, have I? Which accused the Republican of using overly simplistic arguments that whitewash the complex problems that come along with being black in America. LA Times columnist Erica D. Smith said Elder uses taunting and toddler-like name-calling of his ideological enemies before belittling the gubernatorial candidate with her own insults. Quote, "I've learned that it's often best just to ignore people like Elder. People who are, as my dad used to say, skin folk, but not kinfolk," she wrote before attempting to insult Elder as a Trump fanboy, dangerous, a troll, and implied he doesn't understand critical race theory. His candidacy feels personal, like an insult to blackness, the Times columnist wrote. Fox News host Sean Hannity called the column disgusting and invited Elder to respond to it directly. Quote, "I am genuinely friend to friend sorry that you have to go through something as evil, horrific, and racist as that," Hannity said. However, Elder, who leads the pack of Republican candidates looking to replace California Governor Gavin Newsom, wasn't surprised. Quote, "I anticipated that would happen. This is why a lot of people don't go into politics, because of the politics of personal destruction. This is not the first time the LA Times has attacked me. There was another writer who all but called me a black David Duke," Elder continued. "Wow, they're scared to death." That is definitely true. Look at this. Libs of TikTok pulled this up. This is great. Let's pull this up.
I love them.
They're terrified of Larry Elder. All of these. Oh, come on. You're gonna give me the business? I can't pull up the photo anymore.
I
don't think it's going to let me. Okay, well, we can read some of it. Larry Elder, the blackface of white supremacy. Larry Elder talks a lot. Too bad you can't believe anything he says. Larry Elder bashes the media, offers no solutions, remind you of an ex-president. Oh, wow.
I see.
How many people in California are like, ooh, that's good. I do like Trump. What is this? Oh, yes. State officials open investigation into whether Larry Elder failed to disclose income sources.
Convenient.
Jeez. If Larry Elder is elected, life will get harder for Black and Latino Californians. Amazing.
That's my other favorite one right there. That's a good one. Yeah.
They're really scared of this guy. He's leading the pack.
Yeah, he is. And this was not supposed to happen. That's what's so funny is that, like, it was just guaranteed that this recall effort won't work. They are branding it so hard as right-wing Republican. It's a right-wing recall. Vote no on the Republican recall. I mean, they are so desperate to brand it that way, and people just still aren't having it. I know Democrats in California that dyed-in-the-wool Democrats voted for Biden. They'd vote for him again. They said, I'm still voting yes on a recall.
Really?
I don't care. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Do you think the recall is going to go through?
I do.
Really?
I do.
It's neck and neck, though, isn't it?
I really want to be white-pilled on this. I really do.
Right.
I mean,
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Gotta believe.
Were you going to say something?
So, did you see the interview that Gavin Newsom gave where he was, like, maniacal? He looked like, what's his name, Bateman?
When he was mayor of San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. The reporter keeps trying to ask him, like, logical questions about all the problems that he's caused, and he's cackling, and he cuts off the first question from the reporter, I believe, and he just, like, starts naming, like, numbers and stuff. Total Patrick Bateman. Yeah.
Crazy person.
American Psycho.
He owns it. He owns the American Psycho thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw him defying his own COVID mandates, I was like, despot, get him out.
Yeah.
So I've seen the polling, but it's I gotta say, I guess it's not entirely surprising that some Democrats are like, get rid of the guy. Now here's where it gets really funny. From Newsweek. Well, it's from Newsweek, but it's quoting 538. Nate Silver calls Democratic strategy to leave Newsom recall candidate line blank self-destructive. If Newsom gets recalled, the Democrats have offered up no one? Is that what's going on? So the only option you have is a Republican? So Larry Elder's going to win?
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that scenario. That's crazy.
Well, so here's what they say. 538 founder Nate Silver said Monday, the strategy California Democrats are pursuing heading into next month's gubernatorial recall election is self-destructive, as sitting Governor Gavin Newsom faces the possibility that he could be voted out of office. The Democratic Party is encouraging Californians to vote against removing Newsom from office, but to refrain from selecting amongst the 46 replacement candidates who appear on the recall ballot. Okay, so there got to be some Democrats. Newsom's campaign has made similar recommendations in recent weeks. On Monday, Silver responded to a tweet posted by a political reporter who suggested the strategy was self-interested. It's self-destructive more than self-interested. Pretty decent chance Newsom gets recalled. Democrats could potentially keep the seat if they urged their voters to consolidate behind an alternative Democrat, but instead they're telling them not to vote on the replacement.
Whoa.
Dude, Larry Elder for governor is going to be so amazing.
That would be amazing. I want to see that in California.
Yeah.
Because you've heard like what he's going to do when he keeps saying when he becomes governor is that he's just going to issue all these executive orders to like just basically cancel out a lot of these Democrat policies that have gone through these super majorities unchecked that have basically bankrupted the whole state, caused so much homelessness. People can't afford to live, and he's just going to put a stop to all those policies in day one, according to him, but we'll see.
I think he'd do it.
He would do it. I don't know how effective it would be.
Yeah, that's the big risk, right? When Trump got into office, he made the mistake of thinking he could pull the trigger. And then we see clearly he was obstructed across the board. So there's a lot of work to be done. The tendrils of the corruption run deep. And we have a medium-sized animal trap next to our chicken coop because we have a fox that lurks around and we don't want him to get in the chickens, right? So we set this trap up. Well, over time, the grass and everything grew up into it, and now I've locked it in place. It grew all around it, and now you just like rip it out. You see, that's what happens with these super majorities. This is what happens in D.C. The swamp grows deep. The roots get in there thick, and then it's really hard to pull it out. So Larry Elder could get in, but, is it going to be able to effectively weed?
Another metaphor is like if you get black mold toxicity, if you breathe it in, what happens is the mold goes into your system and then it diffuses evenly throughout your entire system. So you just have small particles of mold in your entire system. It's really hard to clean out.
Yuck.
Similar of how politics can corrupt and influence a society. It's not just something we can pull out. It's permeated the entire system and needs to be purged slowly with the right medicine.
I want to make sure I understand that. So are you calling Larry Elder the black mold of white supremacy?
Yes, the black mold of white supremacy. That's
Okay, all right. Okay, got it.
No, you're saying the corruption is infecting your body and you
kidding.
can't get it out.
The corruption is the black mold of white supremacy.
That is good too, because like if it spreads around your house, you could scrub the room where you see it, but not realize there's tiny particles already moved somewhere else that grow again, and it's like really weeding it out. My friends, I have a white pill means like optimism.
Yes.
Yeah. Optimism, despite all indications that your optimism is crazy.
Yeah.
That's how I
It's like
that's how I interpret it.
Gandalf fighting what was that demon that he fought on the bridge?
Balrog.
The
Yeah.
Balrog?
Yeah.
He took the white pill. I think that's why he came back as the white wizard.
Oh, I wonder if that's where the reference stems from. Interesting.
know.
No,
Never
probably
did.
not. It's just because like dark and light,
Yeah, makes
you
sense.
know, which is funny because it goes back to just night and day. During the day it's warm, you're safe, you can see. At night it's dark and the predators are lurking, you can't see them. So humans associated the two. Anyway, I have good news for you. I think that it is likely we will see Gavin Newsom be recalled. And when that happens, Larry Elder is likely to win. And I have one bit of evidence to back that claim. Now, this is definitive proof. You need only see, I'm building up suspense here. Once you see what I'm about to show you, everyone's probably saying there's like, I don't believe it. There's no. You once you see this, you're going to be like, he won. Larry Elder won. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have this tweet from Jean Guerrero. She is a columnist for the LA Times. She said, get ready for this one. Democratic outreach to Latino voters on the California recall election is not working.
Uh-oh.
I've been speaking to young Latinxes, and almost none of them have any idea what's going on. This is really, really bad. Almost none of the ones I've spoken to have any idea what's going on. Okay, so let me break down for you why I think this is good news. If this lady from the LA Times goes to a young Latino person and calls them a Latinx, they're going to be like, this lady's crazy. They probably have no idea what she's talking about. We got some new staffers here at the house, and they don't know who AOC is. They don't know who Brett Kavanaugh is, and I'm like, those are good things.
Perfect.
I'm not trying to tell you who they are. We were just talking about the state of politics, and they're like, we don't know. I'm like, great, do your job. Everything's great. You don't got to worry about these people. Regular people don't know what Latinx is, and so this shows you something powerful. The Democratic establishment is absolutely psychotic. There are people in the LA Times going like, the Latinxes aren't voting for us. And the people are like, I don't know what that is. So if they're going to start making phone calls, I'm looking to speak with are you Latinx? Latinx? Is it
I always
Latinxes?
said Latinx. That's just because
Latinx.
that's the
I don't know.
hardcore in me. I don't know.
But because the S at the end, like Latinx.
Oh, it's Latinx S?
Yeah.
There's an S at the
There's
end?
an S at the end.
Latinxes?
Latinxes.
Latinxes. It can't be Latinxes, but it sounds
Imagine-
Tell me
funny.
it's not.
Imagine someone, calling you. For all the people who are out there who are, I'm sure the people who watch this show, they've heard these words before. But imagine your mom or your grandma, like they're Latino, and they get a call and like, hi, are you a Latinx? Latinx? They're going to be like,
What is
eh?
that? That means
what?
it's a genderless Latin,
Yeah,
someone of Latin.
it's-
It's so insane.
It's
How
a-
would you do that in French?
Oh, they haven't got that far yet. They don't have to worry about the French voters. Just wait.
French voters. Well, there's northern Maine. Okay. The northernmost point of Maine is French American. Then you've got the Nolans. How do you degender French?
Ugh, no idea.
You could say L-E-A, le.
Licks.
So it's like a
You
cross
can't-
between la and le.
No, it's just licks.
Oh, that sounds
LX.
bad.
LX.
Le. The X is silent, so it's le. Yeah.
The L is silent.
The X will be soft, so it'd be like le.
But if,
We are silly people.
all the Romance languages are gendered.
Right.
They're all gendered, right?
Yeah.
Italian, yeah, Spanish
Yeah.
and French for sure.
Portuguese.
German? Is German?
That's
I'm
German.
not sure about
a
German,
language,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Portuguese.
these people did not think this
Portuguese.
through. They didn't think this through at all.
But think about this. This means that the Democratic establishment is isolated in this bubble where regular people are not. And although regular people, default liberals will vote Democrat, they're not looking at this the same way the establishment is. So when the LA Times comes out and screams, Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy, regular people go, who?
Mm-hmm. I'm still saying that. Tell me about this guy. Hopefully I'll meet him soon or get to talk to him.
Larry Elder?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Is he cool?
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
I should look into it. I haven't said much about it because I really don't know.
He's really sharp. Yeah, he actually had a TV program that he did a few times a week at the Epoch Times. So I'm pretty familiar with him because I saw him a couple times and I've watched his stuff, and he's very big on Thomas Sowell, the economist. I think he was a mentor to him. He's very big on instead of pointing at something like systemic racism for problems in the black community, he'll point out the fact that a large portion of the black community doesn't have fathers in the home. So he has some traditional conservative values, but at least they're sane. I mean, he's not out there, saying Latinxes like like drunk Dr. Seuss. I mean, he actually says things that are grounded and are reasonable, even if you disagree with him. But Larry Elder would make a really interesting addition to the California government.
I think aside from that, getting a change in California, just for once. It's like, I'll put it this way. California is like if someone kept using a toilet without flushing, and it's just a mess.
Ew.
And Larry Elder will be the flush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's going to be the person to come in and be like, and then just take his foot up and then pull the lever down and finally just.
He might find he's the guy that needs the shovel and needs to shovel all the poop out so that there's enough room for it to flush.
Totally. Oh, this reminds me, though, of that this video did not get nearly enough coverage. Gavin Newsom cleaning up at Berkeley. Did you guys see that?
I saw that, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man, that was great. He looked like the petulant 12-year-old kid that's having to help his grandpa, clear out lumber. He's, pitching it, and he's got this awful, face on him. It's so funny. So that's how he cleans up California, petulantly and angry, like an elitist. But Larry Elder would actually come in and do some serious work, I think.
That's what I'm saying about these people who just want power. They don't want to do work, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to. Gavin Newsom's like, he was probably sitting in his office, and they were like, okay, Gavin, look, this recall's a big deal. There's a lot of people who want to vote you out. We need to do something to show the public you're there for them. And he's like, I could give a speech. And they're like, no, you got to get your hands dirty. Excuse me? I'm thinking, why don't we go clean up? I thought for a minute you said you want me to go clean up their mess. We got to connect with people. I won't do it. And then some guy was saying, Gavin, you got to do it or you're done. And he's like, fine. And he's like, and that's how I imagine it.
Clean your room.
Yeah, and then he shows up and he's like, you make me clean, you stupid. I don't want
That's the total vibe he was giving off in that video. And I don't even think it had sound, but you could just see it on his face. He was just like, why am I doing this? This is beneath me.
But think about it. It's like, there are people who work hard every day, construction and labor and medical professionals. And this guy, what does he do? California is just awful. Like, where were you? You were in Orange County.
Yeah, Orange County, but prior to that, I was in the San Fernando Valley in L.A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's got a lot of problems too. Still, not as bad as San Francisco with the homelessness and the poop patrols and stuff.
No, I mean it's still got problems. I mean, homelessness is a serious problem. I mean, I'll never forget. I was standing on my patio. This is probably 6 months ago, and this is when they were releasing prisoners from the prisoner. And I saw 2 police cars pull up. They released a prisoner. He signed his papers at the bus stop, and then we locked eyes, and I went back inside.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was because of the COVID stuff?
Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean, maybe it was just like a standard drop-off, but it was at the same time that I was hearing, we're still releasing prisoners, in droves.
Right.
So, I mean, it's California has problems. It's statewide. It's not necessarily, pockets.
This is crazy to see this Latinx system.
Yeah.
No, because I'm like, I got to be honest. Like I was talking about when we were mentioning this with Joe Biden, that even though I know Joe Biden isn't with it, it's fairly obvious, I still believe there was some control. I'm like, Joe Biden's out of it, but the system is working, right? It's maybe in a weakened state, but it's still there. Now with Afghanistan, I'm just like, there is no system. There is no president. It is just absolutely chaos. I look at this thing from the Democrats and I'm like, there's no plan. These people have genuinely gone insane. As much as I rag on them, I always kind of felt like the wokeness was planned, coordinated. Yeah. Like they knew what they were doing to manipulate, lie, cheat, and steal. This woman shows you they don't. They've eaten their own refuse. That toilet's full. They're eating out of it. They believe the crap they're filling up in these toilets. Mm-hmm. I guess it's a good thing though, right?
I don't know.
Well, it means like regular people aren't in that world.
That's a good thing.
But I guess I'll put it this way. People keep voting for it because they think Republicans are bad. Oh, well, Republicans are kind of bad.
The two-party system is
Yeah,
stripping people of their choice, whether they realize it or not. People feeling like the lesser of two evils. Man, that drives me crazy, that phrase, lesser of two evils. Mm-hmm. I've heard it for like 20 years. People want to vote for the lesser of two evils. Dude.
Yeah, we're not even there anymore. Now it's like you can vote for nothing
Maybe
or for a toilet full of crap.
Huh.
The Democratic Party is like piling up a toilet, and the Republicans are not going to flush it. So it's like you can vote for the guys who at least won't stack up on it, or you can vote for the guys who are going to stack up on it. It's like, that's what we get.
What do you do? Like, I can't take a 78-year-old and a Dave.
You read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, because he analyzed the situation pretty thoroughly not too long ago. He was talking about how, we're looking at a very strong possibility in 2024 where it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. And he's like, if this plays out, it's a very interesting opportunity for a third-party candidate. Not going to say me, but, but that was his point. And I really think that might be the case. I mean, I'd like to think that would happen, but, I mean, won't they just
we can manifest it, right, Ian?
We have a lot of power. We can do it just by thinking and meditating, or by talking about it on TV. I love calling this TV, by the way, television. Yeah, let's use but I think the more we talk about it, it has compounding effects. We can definitely help manifest.
I think, man, it's tough because Trump's. I don't think Trump. Man, Trump's tough because his character defects are an issue, but his policy, what he wanted to do was pretty good. Like his second-term agenda, I like. School choice was big. Banning critical race theory in contracts. It's a violation of law anyway. Do it. Getting our troops out of the Middle East and things like that. I'm for it. Getting our manufacturing back. I'm for it. Protecting our borders. I'm for it. But Trump's character plays an issue. Now, I've never felt that his character was like the guy could say the stupidest things in the world. If he's doing a good job, then fine. Who would you rather have? A plumber who can't, you got two plumbers. One guy's falling asleep and can't speak straight. The other guy's cussing like a sailor, but man, he can fix on pipes. Which one do you hire? 2024, if we get maybe a third-party option, I might consider it.
Yeah. Well, but the thing that worries me about Trump, though, is that we saw it's not just like he was the plumber that was swearing up and down and was able to actually fix the problem. People the machine got in his way and prevented him from fixing the problem. Right. So, I mean, isn't that just going to happen again? Is it going to be, Russiagate 2.0? And I mean, how strong is this machine that's going to prevent him from actually instigating these policies that he wants to do?
Yeah, that's why I've been saying, DeSantis is probably better than Trump. Because Trump is one of the most polarizing candidates we've ever had. Right. And DeSantis will get smeared, like they're doing it to Larry Elder, but they're not going to be able to smear him nearly as much as they did with Trump. Because Trump had prominent personality and clips, and people ate it up. DeSantis doesn't have the history of Donald Trump speaking or anything like this. They're probably already working on, they're doing Oppo research like crazy right now. Now, the thing about Dave Smith, because, we had him on last Friday, and we're big fans. Michael Malice, press secretary.
Yes. That's all I want to see. That's all I want to see.
It would, what, man? I can laugh about it, but I genuinely think America needs a Michael Malice press secretary.
We know what that leads to: Michael Malice vice presidency, and then Michael Malice presidency.
Press secretary.
Yeah, was he born in the U.S.? I think he wasn't, so he can't be president. Isn't that the law?
If he's press secretary, he's not going to be vice president.
No, eventually. He'll just get his feet wet. He'll learn the system, and then in 2032...
I don't think he can be. I don't know.
Michael Malice.
I want to see him deal with the press.
Yes,
that's all I want to see. I mean, I think you said the other night that he would just run circles around these people. And
that's an understatement.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
They would be sitting there. They're like, their heads would start spinning, and then just it would be like the final scene in Kingsman while their heads blow up.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
But imagine what the American people would finally hear if you got someone like Michael to be speaking. That's almost more important, in my opinion, than the presidency itself, because we don't hear from Joe Biden every day. We hear from Jen Psaki. We didn't hear from Trump every day. We heard from Spicer or Kayleigh. And they did a pretty good job. Kayleigh McEnany was fantastic.
Great, yeah.
When she pulled out the book and she let me fact check you, journal. And she had all the articles to fact check them. Brilliant. The thing about Michael, though, is he would add a level of mockery
Yes.
and disdain and derision that would be unparalleled.
A level
Absolutely.
of malice, if you will.
A level of malice.
Exactly. Built right into the name.
That's
That'd be
right.
a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, one can hope, I suppose. We can manifest it. I'll put it this way. My biggest fear always with these things is that people are going to be like, a third party can never win, so just support the Republicans. And I'm like, well, that's why they'll never win, because you won't put your faith in that system. You won't stand up for what you truly believe in and want. And so we don't know what's going on with the Libertarian Party. We don't know what's going on with the Republican Party. One of the challenges is that there's no good party. The Democrats are insane. If you give them power, they will use it. They will misappropriate it. Even if you find one, like all these moderate Democrats who are like, we're going to get back to kitchen table issues, vote for me. And then people said, okay. And they're like, here, Pelosi, here's power.
Yep.
Okay, so great. You basically just voted for Pelosi. What's the point of that? Then you get the Republicans. And what do you get when you vote Republican? They do nothing. Nothing is better than burning the system down, I guess. So if that's your choice. And then you have the Libertarian Party, which is insane.
Yeah.
They're just
insane.
Yeah, what the Libertarian Party of Texas tweeted, you can't be pro-freedom and anti-immigration. And I'm like, that just doesn't even mean anything.
Excuse me?
You said nothing. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's not saying it it's like, you can't like pizza if you're a fan of carrots.
What?
What are you talking about?
Platitude.
Yeah, the argument that you can't have secure borders or community makes literally no sense. It's like you're either an anarchist or you're a Nazi. No, there's varying degrees in between those two things, my friend. You can be very pro-freedom, but not an anarchist. Libertarian Party does not mean anarchist. It means there's some government. Are those restrictions anti-freedom? It's just meaningless garbage. It doesn't mean anything. And I feel like most people who are starting to pay attention to politics are like, can we just have like a guy to, do some maintenance on the machine? Someone in government is going to be like, well, we'll get everything going. The other thing too is we're always writing up new laws. We're always complaining about things. Have we ever stopped to consider that like it's going pretty well? Let's take a breather. How about for once we just kind of like have a seat, just breathe in and out a little bit. No, it's always get someone in, new laws, more laws in the book, stack them up. They never go away. Have we ever stopped to consider that like it's going pretty well?
I do, but no. Not really.
Never.
I would love to see that. To see more. What's the repellation of
Appealing,
law?
Yeah.
I guess the issue though is there's certainly things that I think need to change. Section 230, for instance, censorship stuff. So there's always something happening. I guess the bigger concern now, however, is going to be the rise of authoritarianism. I don't know if you guys saw what's going on in Australia. We can talk a little bit about that.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's this viral video where this dude is COVID positive, and he left his apartment, so they should have warrant for his arrest.
Oh my God.
They play a clip of him on TV coughing and sneezing on an elevator, and they're like, he just won't do the right thing. And I'm like, to be fair, if you're sick and then you get on an elevator and start coughing and sneezing, not covering your mouth, it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah.
Right.
But like to issue a warrant for his arrest, now they're saying they have to put signs on you have to put a sign on your door if you're suspected of having COVID. Suspected of having COVID. They force you to lock down and quarantine your house, and they put a sign on your door saying, do not come in, leave packages at the door. Like, they gone full Nazi, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they had like 4 cases or 4 deaths out of 25 million people, I think, is their total number of people who live there. 4 is simply not enough to lock down your entire population.
Well, I don't know if it's 4, but I don't think any number is enough to lock down your entire population. I think we all agreed to the 15 days to slow the spread. And Dave Smith said it best when he was like, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government solution.
Yes.
Or a temporary government program. It's
Friedman.
like, yep. You guys ready for this one?
Oh, boy.
From the Daily Mail. Get vaccinated or stay in jail. New York judges order defendants to get COVID-19 shots as part of plea deals and bail agreements, but is it even legal? A New York judge ordered a defendant to get the COVID-19 vaccine as part of his plea deal, while another made it part of a drug-dealing suspect's bail terms. Manhattan Judge Jed Rakoff granted the release of a woman accused of drug dealing on the condition she get vaccinated. Another order came from Bronx Judge Jeffrey Zimmerman, who made vaccination part of a plea deal. Neither defendant appeared to object. I mean, to be honest, it's probably like, okay, I get to go, and that's all I got to do. The problem I have with this is setting the precedent of government-mandated medication, which we already have with like fluoridation and water and things like that. It should be between you and your doctor. You should go talk to your doctor. not have a judge tell you what you should or shouldn't do.
Right.
Or, we have Joe Biden now. Check this out. Joe Biden is calling on corporations. He tells companies to start mandating vaccines in speech celebrating the approval of the Pfizer vaccine. Hey, that's great. The FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine. Wonderful. Now, as same as it's always been, you can go talk to your healthcare professional that you know and trust and figure out what makes sense for you, and don't ask me for medical advice. But to tell all of the companies to start mandating this, we are going to see a purge of sick people. And then what? They go on unemployment? Someone brought this up to me earlier. They said, have you considered that with New York mandating the vaccine with no medical exceptions, and now for teachers as well, and this push from big companies, they're going to take all of the people with medical conditions that are still able to work and make them unable to work, and now they'll be stuck on government benefits. Once again, just decimating the economy.
What do you think is behind these mandates? I mean, really, because are we to believe that, Joe Biden saying that private companies have to do this and judges saying that people have to do this on conditions of their parole? Are we to believe that this is the result of a genuine concern for public health? Or is there something else?
I definitely don't think so.
So what is it? What is it? Is it just power? That's it.
I don't know, man. Look at that Newsom. He doesn't want to do work. Imagine being able to just tell everyone to do what they're told and they do it. I think it's ideology, So it's just, man, people want power, It's like, you ever play a video game, you put in a cheat code? It's fun.
Right,
You're playing Doom and you type IDDQD and then all of a sudden you can just go around doing whatever you want, and it gets boring kind of quick. But that's basically what they're doing. They're like, oh, now I can just snap my fingers and it's done. But these people are not smart people.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you hired a guy to fix your toilet and he's a computer programmer, but you gave him carte blanche and you come in your bathroom and it's just spraying water everywhere. Nothing makes sense. And he's like, you leave it to me. I'll figure it out. It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah. Will you, though? Will you really?
But you know what? We're out in the middle of nowhere now. That's why I don't know if I care. You know what I mean?
Like, you've been saying that for a while. It's just like, if these cities want to burn themselves down, let them do it. I mean,
if people aren't going to vote to recall Gavin Newsom, then, well, there you go. Time to move.
Right.
This is what I was saying. People were complaining because I'm saying get out of cities, and they're like, no, you got to stay and fight. And I'm like, listen, in New York City, staying and fighting was voting and saying no to this. And then they keep electing Democrats. They elect Joe Biden. You did. And and if people didn't stand up in enough numbers to actually make that change, then you did it. You made your attempt, and now it's time to go. I mean, I suppose you can try and stay, but my point is, if there's a bunch of people yelling hey, we're going to win if we all stick together, and then when it comes down to it, not enough people stick together, you tried. What more can you do?
Well, there was that one restaurateur in New York. I think he had a bakery, and he said that he's not going to, he put this big poster in his window saying, we don't discriminate based on gender, sex, anything, vaccinated, unvaccinated. Right. And they put that poster up right after it was de Blasio, after de Blasio announced. And they thought that they would have, like a lot of other restaurants, fall in line with them, and say the same thing. It's just like, we're not going to do this. Nobody did. So now they're just, the only ones out there saying, we're not going to follow this policy, and we're probably going to get charged thousands of dollars in fines. Yep. So even when you do step up and do that, you're not necessarily guaranteed to have other people have that bravery to do that.
You shouldn't worry about what other people are going to do to a certain extent.
Sure.
You should stand up for what you believe in. And if that means in the end they'll delete your restaurant, it's worth it. It's worth it to me. Because we see what's happening with these kids, right? You see that video in Australia where the 12-year-olds are getting pepper sprayed and arrested?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of videos that are like this of kids being arrested. There's a video out of Australia where it's a bunch of teenagers partying on the beach and they get arrested and they get fined $1,000. And it's like, to everybody who said to me, oh, I can't speak up and risk my job because I have to feed my kids. And I'll be like, okay, well, good luck feeding them when you're in a gulag. Because if you don't speak up now, hey, it may be harder right now, but it's going to get way, way worse. I mean, we're looking at the signs, man. Look at what's going on with Australia. They're building quarantine camps. They're putting signs on people's houses, labeling them as, unfit, undesirables. This same the same history has happened over and over and over again. It's almost like you can just track it to a beat. Here we are in 2022. What was going on in the 20s leading up into the 30s, into the 40s? People just go along with it.
But I don't know.
Like your friend who was like cheering for the fascism.
Right. Yeah. Totally fine with him. But I don't know enough about Australia or Australian history to understand why that place is the one that's actually doing the full-on Nazi lockdown.
They gave up all their guns.
That's what happened in Australia.
So, what do you guys know when Australia gave up all their guns? You can look it up. They gave up all their guns a little while ago.
Oh.
And not that I think people would go out and actually fight with their government. The left tries to use it as an argument because they always want to jump to the most extreme. If I say, hey, one of the first things Nazis did was target disabled people, making it harder for them to live, discriminating against them. Then people will go, yeah, but the Nazis also did most extreme thing ever. And I'm like, yes, that was bad. That was really bad. One of the worst things in history. And they also did a bunch of other bad things before that led up to the point where people accepted it. It's actually what Gina Carano was saying. Remember that post she made that got her in trouble?
Yeah.
She was saying that they demonized people to the point where neighbor attacked neighbor, and we've got to resist that. They took her job because of it.
Yep.
So we're walking into the exact same thing. It's one step at a time. It's not like, that's what I always say. Did you think the despots wouldn't have an excuse? They're not just going to snap their fingers and become authoritarians overnight.
It looks like it was in 1996. There was a mass shooting in Australia, and they restricted guns.
So here's what happens when you have guns. The government, the agents of the state, are scared to kick your door in without a warrant.
Huh.
Because you are legally allowed to defend yourself. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, when the police broke the door down, and they fired at him, he fired back and hit a cop. I think he fired first and hit him in the leg. They tried charging him with it, and he ultimately won. And in the case, there was no charges in the end because he was legally allowed to defend himself from someone breaking his door down. In Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the UK, we got these videos of cops walking in, breaking the door down, and just coming in and beating people and dragging them out. We don't see that in the United States because the police are concerned the citizen is probably armed. It's not that the citizen is going to get in a gunfight. No, we don't want that to happen. It's that if they don't do it properly, the power balance between the individual and the state are, at that moment, the same. In the UK, the state always has the advantage. So don't give it to them. Why give the state the advantage? That's a big difference. So I don't know. Australia, people just slowly gave up more and more of their freedoms, and while you weren't looking, Nazis took over.
So by allowing the government to take their guns, the government just innately realized, oh, well, now what's the next step? Because it's like you said, it's not necessarily that they were going to use their guns and arm in the streets and
it doesn't need to be intentional.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be intentional. It needs to just be that water flows. If you have a river and there's a dam and you open the dam, the water pushes through. There's no conspiracy among the water to make the water flow through. It's just the natural flow of things. So when you have governments that overreact and are panicky and don't like an armed citizenry, then you lose your guns. What happens when you have a population with no weapons? Tyrannical government easily just flows through those open gates. So, a lot of people, I think, assume that the quest to take guns away is on purpose. I don't necessarily think so. I think for some people, seizing guns is on purpose. But I watched this old gun debate thing with Rosie O'Donnell and Tom Selleck, and I've watched a bunch of other arguments about the 90s assault weapons ban and stuff like that. It's panic. It's people who don't know anything about guns panicking and then virtue signaling their way into banning them. And then what happens when you have a disarmed population? Tyranny flows right through those open gates, whether anyone wanted it to happen or not. Look, I don't know what you guys think about the mandates and stuff. I think if people want to go get the vaccine, it's their business. I just think excluding people, based on this stuff is...
Mandates are awesome in the right circumstance. I think this is not the right circumstance, personally. It's very exhausting to talk about this stuff because I don't know if screaming at a camera is enough to get people to change. But other than that, what else is there? I don't know. Self-improvement. That's kind of the route I'm going in my life right now. Get better at singing, get better at thinking, get better at typing. The vaccine mandates they're doing say that you have to have the military is doing it now too. You have to have your vaccines have to be up to date. So I was actually, this is really, really funny. I tweeted Vaxxer ID is racist.
You see the joke I'm making? Voter ID is racist, vaxxer ID. And then what happened was actually kind of surprising. The responses I got from Democrats said a vaccine card is not an ID. And I was like, what are they talking about? I'm talking about de Blasio requiring IDs to get into buildings. I didn't say vaccine cards, I said vaxxer ID. Like, they're using the vaccine, the vaccine mandate as a way to mandate identification. They didn't know it. And then when I actually told some people, like, the mandate requires ID, this one guy was like, no, it doesn't. And I was like, did you read the mandate? And he goes, yes. And I was like, then you didn't read it. And so he was like, show me where it says that. I sent him the link. And then he comes back 10 minutes later and he's like, oh, wow, I didn't see that part where it says an ID must be government, issued or whatever. And I'm like, yes, I'm talking about IDs. They don't know.
God, that could be a mantra of the 49% in that first poll you mentioned. Oh, I didn't see that part. That
Yeah.
could be like their mantra.
They revel in being nasty people. It's like all of the hate flowed in one direction. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, I see the nastiness component, but at the same time, I also see just kind of they feel some sort of bizarre warmth and ignorance. They need things to be like third grade level. The people that I talk to that just don't really see what's happening, or they perceive it in some way that I don't understand. They just want to tune into CNN for 20 minutes, have their 20 minutes, and then have their talking points and be done with it. They need it to be very simple, very easy, and then they can get on with their lives and shout down people that disagree with them.
I think we're addicted to convenience. I think that the fake news is very much a form of convenience and almost a form of comfort to some of these people, which is really turning out to be quite the problem because they're believing everything they tell them. So that if they do change the rhetoric and be like, oh, Joe Biden did this thing wrong, they're just going to believe that hook, line, and sinker too. So they're clearly not like progressively thinking through this. What I was hoping when I started to see this was that they were starting to see that hiring someone based on the color of their skin, like they did with Kamala, was a terrible idea. And voting for someone like Biden against Trump, terrible idea. But no, it's just because they're blindly following along the media because convenience makes them feel good.
But why did they become so nasty? Like we talked about Phil DeFranco before. There's a few other people I know that I'm just surprised to see become really vile people.
Petty tyrants.
A lot of it is
Why?
perception. Like the way that you see someone else's text is not necessarily the way they intended it to be seen. And so you get people that are angry, they type something down out of rage, which is never going to totally, translate what they're feeling. And then someone else reads it and has their own feelings that they put on top of that. Just a massive miscommunication. Like you said, you talked to your friend, but it was through text. And so a lot of miscommunication through text. I've had a really good friend of mine I basically had to cut ties with via text because I couldn't handle the text comments. After a while, like it's...
But I still think, I get it, but you're missing the main point. Like, why are people that I know posting the meanest, craziest things on Facebook in general? Like, people who used to be normal people I know from Chicago all of a sudden are posting things on Facebook saying like, F these stupid MFers, I hope they all die and burn and suffer. And I'm like, what? the happened to these people?
Yeah.
Yo, like there's one viral tweet where someone's like, I've seen a whole bunch of pro-vax people celebrating the deaths of people who wouldn't get vaccinated from COVID and wishing their death, but I've never seen the anti-vax people wishing the same for those who are pro-vaccine. Like, what happened to these people, man? It's like they're infected with some kind of rage, and they just want more. They're addicted to rage and anger and being mean people.
Someone with perhaps a bit of a spiritual or religious outlook would say that there's some sort of possession that's happening because people are really, a lot of them, I know exactly the kind of people you're talking about, and they're not themselves. And I don't know what that is. But getting to the kernel of where that started, that's really hard to unwind. I don't know what that is.
Demonic possession, got it. We'll roll with that one.
Confirmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For yourself, what would put you in that state of mind?
Like being really mean to people?
Yeah.
I just tried not to do that.
I think if I was physically uncomfortable, like maybe overweight or eating, I know when I'm physically uncomfortable, even if I eat crap and then like a day or 2 days later, I just have a terrible mood. So that
I can't understand it, man. I could not understand posting F all the MFers, I want them to die. Nyeh. I post silly I tweeted out Joe Biden is the greatest president of this or any generation. Then I waited a few minutes for people to laugh, and then I said, "Why aren't you retweeting this?" Like I got no hate. I got concern, I got empathy, and I have disdain. I don't hate.
Maybe
I don't want to cause pain.
It's like residual from Trump come in and be like, the far leftists, all these jerks, and Hillary's like, basket of deplorables, and then Biden comes in and he like arrests all these people on 1/6. And what he should be doing is letting those people go and commuting their sentences or their crimes, like John Hancock did with Shays Rebellion. When the farmers revolted before they signed the Declaration, he realized they did it out of desperation. They didn't do it because they were evil people, so he pardoned a bunch of them. Biden should pardon those people if he wants social cohesion right now. But as long as there's this he said, she said, they're villains, he's an enemy, we're gonna see it in the populace.
Yeah, but dude, there is an objective reality here.
What is that?
In Portland, a bunch of right-wing groups wanted to have a Summer of Love event. And sure, you can argue they know what's going to happen if they have an event in Portland, but they're allowed to put on a rally where they talk and say things. Antifa showed up and started throwing gas and attacking people. And then a bunch of Proud Boys reacted and started fighting back, and then the media blames the far right. Certainly, I think the right-wing groups that are down there don't understand that they're being baited. But it's like, what am I supposed to say? Right-wing group is allowed to have a rally. They're allowed to stand up on their truck with a big sign saying Summer of Love and the hate. And that's okay. If you don't like it, walk away. Antifa has no right to show up and throw bricks at people and beat them and crash, try and ram them with cars. There was a shootout. And I think the guy who got arrested was an Antifa guy. I don't know for sure, but he looks more like an Antifa guy who was shooting. 2 people were shooting. We see a bunch of videos, a bunch of reports of the Antifa people with weapons and things like that. The objective reality is the media will call Antifa left-wing, and they'll call conservatives far right. And I started thinking about this. I'm like, then what's right-wing? Like, if you're a conservative and you're far right, then how would the media define right-wing? Oh, I think I know. A pro-universal healthcare liberal like myself. Traditional liberal, I suppose. More classical liberal in a sense. But they'll call me right-wing. They'll call an actual conservative far right. They've lost the plot.
Yeah, I don't know what's left and right and conservative and liberal. Like, we look at crypto economics, and being conservative would be to maintain the current system of fiscality, economics. But we see that it's a broken system that's on a runaway train to demise. So it's actually conservative to change that system to a more conservative financial system. So whereas you would think it's liberal to tear down the economic order and install a new system, it's actually very conservative to do that because the system is dangerous.
I don't even know, man. I don't think the words have become meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be a liberal conservative that's far right and far left at the same time. It's okay.
I'll tell you what's funny.
And a centrist.
When I was watching one of Hassan's video because we talked about Hassan Piker buying that big house. And he was talking about, he said a lot of things about Afghanistan that are identical to exactly what I said. That it's a shame it's going down this way. It's good that we're getting out. And then he said, but it's literally Trump's fault. This is Trump's plan. Trump negotiated this. And my take was, and it's literally Biden's fault. Biden changed the plan. Biden, failed, pulled our troops out of Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night. And I'm like, if someone super chatted this to us, if we had, Jack Posobiec or Jack Murphy or Steve Bannon sitting down with like Vosh or Hassan, they'd probably agree on most things and then disagree on cultural issues and culture war issues. And so it's like, I guess I'm just pointing out there's a tribal need, in my opinion, to blame Donald Trump for everything. And so my criticism of Hassan in this regard and many on the left is it's literally not Trump's fault if you actually follow what's happened. But it's easy to say Trump negotiated the withdrawal, therefore he bears responsibility for how this went down but Joe Biden is literally the president and he changed the terms of the deal. So it's like, it's tribalism.
Yeah, I want to avoid trashing Biden. Like, big problem. I was born in Ohio and Cleveland Browns for life. Cleveland Browns fan because that's my hometown. And when the quarterback would screw up, a Cleveland Browns quarterback, throw a few incompletions, throw an interception, the fans would turn on the guy and be like, this guy sucks. He's terrible. And then the guy would start playing worse because his morale would be shot. And then it'd be like, he's terrible. Get rid of him. They'd go through a quarterback, get a new quarterback. He's the golden child, throws a few interceptions. He's terrible. Get rid of him. So they destroyed their own team by talking crap about it. If we do that with Biden, I'm afraid that could happen.
What if the quarterback was 78 years old and couldn't talk?
You still want to improve his morale.
No, at that point you say, get him out, get him out. Look, I get what you're saying. If I was sitting there with you, Ian, at a Cleveland Browns game, and the quarterback was 78, and he was going, and you were like, don't rag on him, man. We got to give him a chance. I'll be like, bro, come on. Dude, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like,
but it's more subtle.
It makes sense if he was 40.
Like, at what point do you watch a quarterback throw incompletions? At what point do you say he's not the guy anymore?
Bro, Joe Biden wasn't the guy to begin with.
Like, he's the commander-in-chief. It's like the
listen, how
the
about
quarterback of the best team in the NFL.
Let's try this. What if the quarterback was 78, couldn't talk right, and wasn't actually chosen by the team's owners or managers? It was just that the quarterback they were going to have, the fans didn't like, so they were like, just get us anybody. And they were like, we got this old guy sitting in the stands. Just take him, because the fans don't like that guy. So it's like what you were saying, right? You got a quarterback, he throws a few, interceptions, and then when people boo him, he starts cussing at him and he's rude, and they're like, we don't want to watch this game anymore. And then the owner's like, we're losing money. What do? We need anybody. And they're like, just grab that 78-year-old guy who can't talk straight. And now you got people sitting there watching, and they're like, dude, this guy can't play. Like, what do we do? And you're like, dude, we don't want to lose another quarterback. Don't rag on him. And I'm like, I think we want to lose this quarterback. I think he can go home now.
But you lose the whole team when you.
But the vice quarterback is even worse.
Right. The second
speaker of the field is just insanely bad.
So assuming you don't have another option, there's no free agents waiting to get hired right now. Then that's when morale improvement is key. Because like Tom Brady wasn't necessarily the best quarterback, but he was in a great organization with massive people were behind him. He had incredible morale and thought he was great. So he kept being great. He kept fulfilling that prophecy.
What would President Kamala be like?
She'd laugh a lot.
Live, laugh, love.
Oh, no.
Maybe we get some video of her firing a pistol.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine a President Kamala? Like, already she's laughing at the question about Americans trapped in Afghanistan. But could you imagine her like sitting down with like Vladimir Putin, and he's like, if you do not withdraw your troops from Libya, we'll fire a nuke.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Are these troops in Afghanistan, are they like 15,000 Americans left for dead? Were they just left? Are they going to be in prison like prisoners of war?
Well, the Taliban is saying like, no, we'll get the Americans out.
And then there's all these Afghanis and their families that worked with the American troops that are still there. Like, I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands. Are those people, we're just going to leave them to be incarcerated, sold into slavery, have their heads cut off? Like,
I mean, here's the challenge. You got to watch out for the propaganda. There's a bunch of propaganda coming out saying like, America, don't do this. There's like I saw one story. It said a famous Afghan TikToker was captured and executed by the Taliban. And it seems like a lot of these stories are preying upon Western sensibilities to make Americans be like, we have to go back in and save them all. And it's like, no. The reason the problem's this bad is because we did this in the first place. You need to stop. Just stop. Unless you're pro-colonization, I guess, and you think America should colonize, then it's like, okay, well then you're pro-colonization.
Colonize Mars, maybe?
Yeah, well, they want to colonize Afghanistan and then build a pipeline into Europe.
I'm not a big fan of colonizing on top of other people.
Yeah.
But what do you do? Like, I don't mean do colonization. I'm like, what do you do about the fact that you've got international elites and you've got massive corporate interests in getting oil pipelines out of Afghanistan, and they're going to fund the politicians, and the system will flow in that direction?
Probably change the economics situation. I think, remove the fiat currency from diminish its value. It seems like it's happening automatically.
How do we get the left to be on board with like ending the Fed or auditing it or something?
You got to make it exciting. My goal is to get super famous with a hit song, and then people are like, "Yeah, whatever you say," because I'm obsessed with you.
I don't know.
Worship.
No, maybe.
I don't know.
What if we accuse the Fed of being racist?
Yes.
There you go. That's a good start. Yeah.
I do like that they've gotten woke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like no problem.
No, I don't like that either. I don't like using
being racist.
their tactics against them. Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
No, they need
Now,
it.
let's be honest. The Federal Reserve was created by a bunch of rich white men to uphold white supremacy.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You think they'd buy that?
No.
It's worth a try.
It only works when their priests tell them. When they're the cathedral.
They tried the Rockefeller Rothschild keyword thing in like 2011, and that was like all the buzz is like, oh, the Rothschilds, oh, the Rockefellers, and like those families were involved in like the creation of the banking order and the Federal Reserve and things like that. But so that shock value of like Rockefeller is gone. Like that was like 2008. That name all of a sudden was like, ooh, the big bad name.
Right. It's tough to say because, like, this is something James Lindsay talks about all the time when he's, like, going through he's analyzing Herbert Marcuse's work about, the Marxist professor Herbert Marcuse, who's kind of, in a sense, an architect of the woke stuff, is that the asymmetry is the whole point. There's not really a reasonable debate to have with some people that are kind of infected with the woke ideology. It's about asymmetry. It's about this side is permitted, this side is not permitted. Plain and simple. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for exchange. It's just right wing bad, that's not tolerated. Left wing good, all goes.
This is part of this guy's study.
Anything they
Herbert Marcuse. Yeah, I mean this is his essay is called Repressive Tolerance. Very dense essay. I would encourage you to listen to James Lindsay's analysis of it because he's lived in this world. But yeah, that was essentially his whole take on the idea is that tolerance at a certain point is repressive and is bad. So you can't be tolerant of the right. You have to be tolerant of the left.
Yeah, who was that other guy? They didn't. I can't remember his name. They made the paradox of tolerance.
I'm not sure.
Intolerance. Popper. That's right. Karr.
Oh yes, yeah. I've heard of that. Yeah,
and he's not wrong.
Right.
The problem is the left is intolerant and we tolerate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that's the other thing you see coming through in our current society with Marcuse and his ideas is he was saying that it's a pretty interesting argument that he makes. He says, if we had just pre-censored Hitler and just said, let's not let him speak, then we wouldn't have had the Holocaust now, would we? So we have to pre-censor these ideas. They can't be expressed because if we tolerate those speeches, then it's repressive for everybody. But he was censored. Hitler?
Yeah, he absolutely was.
He was?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the people on the left try to bring up saying see, even they went after him, and then the counter is yes, and it didn't do anything because when you push things into the corner, they just fester in darkness. And if people are actively paying attention to these ideas, then they understand them and they can reject them. But you let these ideas grow in the darkness, and then it's all of a sudden you're like standing up and like, whoa, where did all this come from?
Well, that's what we're seeing now is that there's that bad idea. The idea of pre-censorship is happening again with big tech platforms. They're saying, let's just not let these ideas out there, and it's backfiring. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I have to say, I don't want to leave this, before we go to Super Chats, on a sad note. I want to point out that woman who called young Latinos Latinxes, and just remind you all that these people have no idea how to communicate with young people, and they're probably going to create a generation of more liberty-minded individuals who are anti-woke. Mm-hmm. Not a guarantee.
Yes.
They'll get a lot of people to join their little cult, tribalist, whatever. But I think a lot of young people are going to be like, "What did you call me?" Mm-hmm. Like that has nothing to do with my community. Yo, like why is Fast and the Furious so popular?
Failing.
I just watched F9.
Oh, how was it?
Sorry.
I like it. I love dude. The Fast and the Furious cinematic universe is the best.
Oh my god.
You know why?
Well, why?
Because they're self-aware.
Are they?
It's absolutely
Statham.
like, dude, they went into space.
Oh,
they went to outer space. It's
getting real.
awesome. Why did they go to outer? I don't know.
No one knows.
I don't know.
Awesome.
But it's self-aware. And the point is, Fast and the Furious is like cars, music, pretty girls, and action adventure because people like these things.
Right.
They don't know what this woke stuff does. But no, for real, in Fast 9, I'm sorry for the spoiler, guys. Movie's still out.
Bring it on.
They go to space. Just think about how hilarious that is. Where the first movie was like a normal crime drama.
Yeah.
And now they're in space. Fast 9 in outer space. I was watching it and I'm laughing. I love it. Each and every movie is better. They did Hobbs and Shaw. Did you see that one?
Oh, yeah.
Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw. It's a Superman in that movie. I don't even know what's going on. It's amazing, dude.
Wild.
They got to roll with it.
Gosh.
I really hope that eventually they get to the point where they legit get superpowers.
That'd be cool.
How amazing would it be if the FFCU literally becomes a new superhero cinematic universe?
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Just because, they already have super soldiers, so they have the potential for Captain America, right? So in Hobbs versus Shaw, you had Idris Elba playing a guy who was a super soldier. So he was like super strong.
He was great.
He's awesome.
That movie, I didn't like that movie, but I loved him in that movie.
I thought the movie was fantastic.
I didn't like Statham. My problem with Statham is that he never seems like that he's at risk. There's never any like sense of urgency or danger. He always is like
too powerful.
He's an actor. Yeah. He knows his character can't be hurt, so that there's no fear of. So I'm like, every time he's on camera, I'm not afraid that the character's going to die. It's just I'm waiting for it to happen.
Dude, I want to see in F10 like Vin Diesel like raids, the super soldier compound, and he gets injected, and then he gets superpowers, and then Ludacris is just he can fly for some reason.
I think that's the only way you can heighten it from here, from space.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like,
that's the logical.
They go to Mars.
Yeah. Is Justin Lin always the director? Does he direct all of them? He's the writer, producer, and director of this F9.
It just every movie is crazier than the last, like to an extreme degree.
Gosh.
I like that.
People love it. They make like
not
hundreds
woke.
of
They could
millions
totally
of
start
dollars.
like bending reality, like Doctor Strange, and then like have The Rock.
I don't want to spoil.
Like,
I don't want to spoil the movie.
Oh, it's great.
Like we're so close to Vin Diesel getting superpowers.
Let's do it.
He's got a brother apparently.
Wow.
He could have like a second cousin who turns out to be like his mom or something.
I'll
A
tune into
wizard.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Can't believe
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
pitching
Vin
you
Diesel's a
this.
big like D&D guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
Oh, I
he's
don't
a
know.
Is he
gamer.
actually interesting?
Yeah, he's a hardcore gamer.
How cool would it be if
Really?
like they go to Egypt and find a Stargate?
Okay.
Be
That's
amazing.
dope.
That'd
That's
be
really
cool.
cool.
You know Vin is into that, dude.
Yes.
Aliens. What's next, man? Hey, already super soldiers. All right. So we don't want to jump too much. So the next one's got to be like they find the super soldier serum and they themselves get the super soldier abilities. Then the next one can be like someone, jumps really high.
Yeah, you got to get
Then they
Vin
fly.
Diesel. Got to get bombarded with radiation sometime. And there's the whole scene of him being like, "Grr!" like his arms bulging. He's like, "Grr!"
Yes.
And then he turns green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're just like, I don't even
know.
Dude, when I turn it on, I know it's going to be just like,
Nonsense.
yeah, it's awesome nonsense. It's just like, it's a parody of itself. But it's
That's how you do it. You got to lean into it.
I
Yeah.
love it.
It's
All
not
right,
woke.
let's read some super chats.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Smash that like button, subscribe, share the show with your friends, and go to timcast.com, be a member. We'll have a bonus segment coming up for all y'all. We got Jonathan Galtarini says, my wife and I have been trying to have a second baby for 3 years now.
Nice.
We had to resort to IVF, which is way too much for us to afford. A GoFundMe shout out would be dope. Andrea and Zachary IVF fundraising by Andrea Kunkel. Best of luck for you on your children endeavors.
Try fasting too. When you free up the blood flow in your lower core, it helps. Free up the blood flow in your genitals. I found, which can
There
help
you
you
go.
have babies.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Patrick Stover says, Tim, what is the best guitar and why is it the Telecaster?
Oh.
I honestly, I just like it the way it sounds, to be completely honest. So my first guitar was a Strat, and then the first guitar given to me when I was a little kid was a Strat. And then I got a Strat Acoustic when those came out, which is a small fiberglass body Stratocaster. It looks like a Stratocaster, Fender Stratocaster, but it's acoustic. And it doesn't sound very good, and they don't make them anymore.
Is it that black one?
Yeah. It was the first one I ever bought myself. But then I bought a Telecaster, a white Telecaster, because it just sounds better. It's the easiest way to explain it. I mean, I suppose you can always change out pickups and customize and do whatever you want. But we're building a music studio, production studio for all the music. And so we got the Acoustasonic Telecaster. Incredible.
Was that brown one?
Yes.
Nice.
It's up there. It's expensive, but it is. They had a really expensive one. It was like $4,000 because it was some exotic African wood or whatever. And I'm like, we're not trying to do like, we want something that sounds really, really good so we can make music. And it's hard to justify an expense this high, even for the one I did get. But for the live performances, I think this thing is absolutely, the sound is incredible. It gives you an acoustic sound or an electric sound when you can just change. Yeah, it's brilliant. And it's a Telecaster. It's the Acoustasonic Telecaster. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. I don't know. I just love it. I don't like Strats. I like Schecter, but I think just Telecasters, man. I love it.
Yeah, I love the Martin. It's the Dreadnought. I mean, that's the one I've played for 20 years. It's the acoustic Martin Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Electrics, I don't know. I don't know much about them.
I've
I had
always,
a Stratocaster. That was my first one.
Yeah, I think most people get a Strat to start.
It's like a cheap black and white
Yeah, that's what I had.
Strat.
Yeah. John R. says, this is in reference to yesterday's Cast Castle. Number 1, have you ever had Irish cream and coffee, Tim? You're in for a real treat. I've not. We bought Irish cream.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually creamy. I'm like, I've never had it.
Maybe I'll try that in the coffee.
Yeah,
one day.
we went to the liquor store because we're building the new studio. And so we wanted to get like good booze for guests and for celebrations. Like, we're not going to dish out really expensive stuff for just literally no reason and just waste money or anything like that. So I got corn whiskey, which was like $10. And I'm the most excited for that. Because I want to get some of the snootiest whiskey snobs and be like, here's your corn whiskey with a plastic bottle. No, it's in a glass bottle. It's in a glass bottle. But we got some good stuff, too. And a lot of people are pointing out that none of us drink. Everybody who went to the liquor store, nobody drinks. And so they're like, it's like bringing vegans to a butcher shop. Like, what are you doing?
We have this.
Some of us drink.
Ohishi whiskey. Tim, we had a little bit of this before the show. The three of us did.
And I'm not a drinker, but I tasted it.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Tried it.
It's delicious.
You can tell it's made with rice. I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have like
great.
it's not really bitter. It's very smooth.
Yeah, it's part of the experience. So that when people come, you have your option between your caffeine or your alcohol.
Yes.
So you can either. Some people are really nervous. You can give them a little bit of booze if they're
tired.
if they're really tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Red Bulls.
Yeah.
And for people who are just crazy and listen to new metal or whatever, they mix it together.
Yeah.
And then they die.
Oh, John R's got a number 2. He says, what's a good raspberry vodka, you ask? There isn't one. Ha! And number 3, something weird, liquor-wise, that no one would expect you to have at a party, absinthe. Let me know before you go to the liquor store again, and I'll hook you up.
Good stuff, by the way.
yes.
Have you guys had it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure we got some.
It is really good. You could put an ice cube in it and then light it on fire. That's like one of the what do they call it? Traditional ways to do it.
Cool.
Burn your little, or maybe it's like a sugar cube or something.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. It's a
Burn
sugar
it.
cube. Yeah.
And it's made with wormwood. It's mildly psychoactive.
Yes.
But I think that's the stuff in Europe. I don't think you can get that here.
Oh, interesting. Wormwood.
Yeah. I think this. So I was talking to that. He's like, "Oh, do you want absinthe?" And I was like, "Is that legal here?" And he's like, "It's really different. You go to
Interesting.
Europe, it's
It's
very
a different thing.
Yeah. So everybody buys it all excited, but it's not.
F.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got here. Andrew Karr says Biden is stopping extra unemployment in early September just after pushing for vaccine mandates. No coincidence. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Balian says, not Ian. According to Rachel Maddow, the Afghanistan fiasco is all because of Trump's immigration laws that hindered the Afghan people from coming to the U.S.
Of course. They couldn't get out. Or they couldn't get in.
Yeah.
What's the phrasing here?
Michael Shipley says, I found a company that will customize beanies. Let me know where to send the info. You want to?
Yeah,
There you go.
spinufo@gmail.com. That'd be good. I will accept that.
Cigars and Sig Arms says, I don't know what's the most amazing phenomenon from the last year. Right-wingers turning on the cops or left-wingers simping for Big Pharma.
Great.
There you go, man. Mm-hmm. Funny, huh? John R. says, number 4, no, I'm not an alcoholic. All right. James Nelson says, never forget the 150-ish generals and command staff Obama and Biden purged to get this woke military. Oh, yeah. And Trump didn't do that. Trump could have come in and been like, you're all fired. The one thing he was famous for. And he didn't do it enough.
Ironic.
Sarah says, a friend fought in Afghanistan. After withdrawal, he's one of only a handful of soldiers left from his unit. The rest passed in the last week. Suicide. Support our veterans. They need and deserve it. Definitely, man. Sorry to hear it.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Herpderp says, what's the most heart-wrenching movie scene you've seen? Someone showed me the choice scene from Sophie's Choice today. Broke my heart into a million pieces.
I'm a big fan of that scene from The Notebook. Ryan Gosling. I won't spoil it for you. Watch The Notebook if you haven't seen that.
Oh, man. It was in Fast 8. When I'm just kidding.
Very
Hobbs and
emotional.
Shaw.
Very emotional.
Very
That was
emotional.
deep. We were in the theater
Fast and
together when
Furious.
that when I saw that.
No, The Notebook's good.
Touching. Yeah.
Very
I
emotional.
cried, man. That was
Yeah.
an emotional time in my life, but whew.
Yeah.
I think I cry every time during that final scene.
So
when
good.
when he finally breaks through and gets to her. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Yeah, that's gut wrenching.
I'll have to watch it.
Oh, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear.
All right, let's see. Brian Ventura says, Tim, hitting Chicago for the first time this October. Keep up with the foodie scene there still? If so, what's the best neighborhood to find the following? Ramen, pierogies, deep dish pizza. P.S. Love the website. Best $10 ever. Hey,
Ooh,
thanks for
yeah.
being a member at
Nice.
timcast.com. Ramen. I don't know about ramen in Chicago. Do you have any?
I've never had it in Chicago.
Yeah. Pierogies. Well, I don't know if it still exists, but in the Midway area where I grew up, it's like a very Polish neighborhood. And you can probably find a lot of little Polish delis around there. It's like Pulaski Avenue, on the south side.
Perfect.
But, man, I honestly don't know. Deep dish pizza, however, I like Lou Malnati's. What do you think? Giordano's, Lou Malnati's?
I'm going to go with Giordano's, but we got it frozen and had to cook them off. And I think the,
It's not as good.
not Illuminati's. What do you call it?
Lou Malnati's.
Lou Malnati's. It was a little
I like
watery.
that.
I think because it was frozen, it would become
Yeah.
a little watery. So I didn't get the
Yep.
full Lou Malnati's experience.
I will tell you this: when we order Giordano's here, we order deep dish because I'm like, hey, I'm from Chicago. I'm like, make people try it and see what they like better. When you cook the Lou Malnati's, it's like it comes out with water on top, and I literally lift it and drain the water off of it.
Oh, weird.
It's not bad though. It's like tomato juice. It's just like watery, and I have no problem with it. I think it tastes better. But that's just like full disclosure. The Giordano's thing, it tells you to microwave it.
Yeah,
Weird.
Yeah, it
That's a
comes
weird
in
move.
frozen. It's like microwave it, then bake it, and I'm like, that sounds
Why?
really weird.
No, that's something's wrong there.
It is
I
good.
don't like that.
It is still good though.
Uh-huh.
It is very, very good.
I'm a huge fan of the Art of Pizza in Chicago. If you guys haven't had that yet, the deep dish Art of Pizza.
I used to go to a place called Big Tony's, which is just to the west of Bucktown, I think. It's like in Logan Square, and I would get the Giardiniera pizza, and that was my favorite.
Like
I
with
think-
the carrot and celery and all the
Cauliflower.
Yeah.
Pickled veg.
Yeah.
Giardiniera, that's a Chicago thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I first went to New York, I went to a sandwich shop, like a bodega, and I was like, I'll get, let me get like a roast beef and cheddar with some Giardiniera, and the guy was like, with what?
What?
And I was like, Giardiniera, and he was like, I don't know what you're saying, and I was like Giardiniera, and he's like, bro, I don't know what that is, and I went, oh. I went to Potbelly's, and I saw the bottles, and they're called hot peppers. They don't say Giardiniera. It's a Chicago thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like being in a different country. It's like, what do you mean? And then I remember the first time when I was buying the sandwich, they had no it said hero and roll or whatever, and I was like, the hell's a hero?
Yeah.
No, hero. Hero
Yeah.
is what a sandwich is called in New York.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a hero.
Weird.
Yeah.
And so I walk in and I'm like, what's a hero? And he's like, sandwich. And I was like, but like, what is it? I don't know what it is. We call them subs in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or hoagies.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. No one really says hoagie.
Yeah, I grew up with
Not
hoagie
you
in the
hoagie?
mountains. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
called them. Yeah, hoagie.
We said sub. A
Sub
long
sandwich.
sub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Ohio, there were subs.
And we have Subway everywhere.
Sub
Yeah.
sandwich.
XS subs. Yeah.
What's the best food in Chicago? If I was going to recommend food in Chicago, well, we all love Portillo's.
Oh, the Stinking Rose. That has some great garlic bread. I think that's downtown Chicago.
Nice.
Well, there you
Is
go.
that Chicago? Stinking Rose?
Go to El Gallo on Archer, South Archer Avenue. Get yourself a burrito.
Burrito.
That's where we used to go. There's Los Gallos and no, El Gallo I think is on 63rd Street near Narragansett, and Los Gallos is on Archer. We used to go there. Those people that was always so much fun. If it still exists, I haven't been there in a long time. All right, let's see what we got here. Well, that one's a mean one. I'm not going to read that one.
Don't do it.
Total Wildlife Management says, my son is a new Marine. They just told everyone if you don't get the jab, then you have to be discharged. But isn't that true for everybody who signs up? You get tons of vaccines?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand this one. Like when I know a ton of people who have joined and they're like, yeah, you go through basic, they give you a bunch of vaccines. And it's like, okay, well, here's another one. I don't get it.
It's a FDA non-approval thing. And I saw they did approve the Pfizer vaccine, but then I read something or someone sent me something that said that it still had problems, but they just had approved it. Did you read anything about that?
I did not see that. I read that they passed the trials with an exorbitant amount of people and that it's going into phase 4 now, which happens after FDA approval. Which is like, I can respect people saying that they want to make their own health choices. I can respect people saying that they want long-term, studies and stuff. But I just think it's important to point out some perspective. Most people go to the doctor and get prescribed medications they never look into. And that should change. People should actually start looking into this stuff.
Definitely. The information's available on the internet. You should.
Yeah, just if that's your attitude now, maintain it across the board for your health and make proper health decisions. I think Mike Cernovich had one of the best responses to this It's a comic where it's like a big fat woman in a rascal saying, you know, like, about the vaccine, I don't know what's in it or whatever. And it's like, his point was, you're not healthy. There's a lot of people who are like, well, I don't want to risk my health. It's like, dude, you eat greasy cheeseburgers and smoke cigarettes and get drunk. You're not like, you're not, what is it? You know, you're not worried about your health.
Ideological. And in instances like that, it must be ideological, right?
I mean, there's certainly something different from being like, I know that if I eat a cheeseburger, it'll make me fat if I eat too many, and like taking a medication. But I just think there's a lot of small things that people should have some perspective on. And more importantly, like, regardless of that, people should, you know, eat better, exercise. You do what you got to do.
Use that inversion table.
You know? Yeah, that one's great. EOD Voodoo says, first super chat, Afghan vet. A haiku.
Yes.
My children run in the yard. Missing limbs hinder, obstruct, delay, and drain. Was it all worth it? Thank you, Timcast team.
That's hardcore.
Thank you.
Logan Culver says, where's the Kurt Schlichter episode from last week? It is on rumble.com.
Yes.
If you go to Rumble and look up Timcast IRL, it is also on the website. If you go to the website, it will be there. You know, there you go. Jared Lifeguard says, Ian, what would you think would happen if we mastered fusion energy and magnetic transportation? What would the masses do with that technology? All the Timcast viewers have to find the time to read Atlas Shrugged.
You could transport food across long distances really fast by launching it into orbit and then catching it as it comes back down with a magnetic like counterpull. So shipping, it could accelerate shipping. You could also, people could take trains from place to place, and you could have little villages all over the place as opposed to centralizing it in cities. So that would help the spreading out issue, I think.
Connor H says, how many ears does Jean-Luc Picard have? 3. His left ear, his right ear, and the final front ear.
Yes, I love that joke. It's like Davy Crockett.
All right. Good humor. All right, let's see. Katie says, I'm not going to donate a lot because I don't have a lot of money, but I appreciate the work your whole team does. I love that you call both sides out, especially useless Republicans. I wish you all well.
Thank you.
That's the problem with the Republican Party. But it's like useless isn't as bad as destructive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to come out and just lie, I guess. All right. Purposeful Porpoise says, Yo, Tim, prepare yourself for the Stargate episode where the general looks straight into the camera and basically admits that the show is a cover for a real Stargate program. Aliens confirmed.
What?
Oh, come on.
What?
I don't know if the joke we had from the jam session was put in the vlog where
one?
we sang a song about Ian's revenge.
It wasn't in the vlog.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't in the vlog. I wish it was. That was a good one.
Yeah, so we jammed a song where I was basically, it's like about Ian killing a guy.
Oh, no.
But the chorus is about how he kills a guy because it's his revenge. But the verse is me saying it's really true. It's not a joke. You think it is because it's in a YouTube video and we're just messing around, but it's real. You know.
Tell a friend, didn't you?
Yeah, tell your friends. I should have said something like, "Please help me." You know,
I'm stuck
next.
in a corner.
He's gonna come after me.
My hands
only,
are tied.
only playing the song is keeping him occupied.
They're good.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, about that fourth wall breaking. I must have missed that one. What season is that? In the last season?
Oh, it happened. I thought they were saying it's going to happen.
No, the show ended a long time
Interesting.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a Mayan Native American thing, is that the Stargates are real. They would have these like areas that were carved out that they would stand in, and when they were inside of them, their minds would transcend the universal superstructure, so it seemed, and they would like communicate with aliens and see other realities.
Tripping.
Mark S says, love Larry Elder. Totally voting for him on this recall. Ian, Larry Elder is the guy that put Dave Rubin on the spot and got Dave to start thinking critically, more classically libertarian. Keep up the good work, you fine people. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Dave was talking to Larry Elder and mentioned, I think he was talking about systemic racism. Mm-hmm. But Larry, like, clearly knew a lot more than Dave on the issue. And then Dave was kind of just like, respectfully, like, oh, okay. But then Larry's conversation with him kind of opened up Dave to be like, hey, man, you got to, like, read this stuff. And then Dave was like, okay. And Dave, like, he posted the video. He's proud of it, you know, of, like, being the kind of guy who's going to hear something and then change his mind.
Yeah, it was like from 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool. Thanks for letting me know about that.
Good clip.
Great dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Dragon Lady said the same thing. Ian, watch Dave Rubin's first interview of Larry Elder back in, I think, 2015.
Awesome.
Rubin calls it one of his most transformational moments.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, I could see it.
Nong Mar says, is Ian Timcast Castle's shaman?
Yes.
I guess technically by default.
Easily. Yeah.
I'm down to hire
say
more
so.
shaman
Yeah.
though, if you want.
Jesus Sanchez says, I don't know how far you are in Stargate. You should watch season 4, episode 16. I will check it out. So there's like 3 episodes that come on per day. So I'm in like season 9 or something right now, but I've skipped half the episodes in between because I certainly can't watch 3 episodes a day. So it's like, it's hard to keep track.
Did you just skip through and look for ones you like, the premise of?
No, because between like 4 and 6, there's like, 4, 5, and 6, they play an episode of Stargate. And I can't watch every episode all the time. So I'll see like one of the 3. And then, so now they're already at like the end of the show or whatever.
That sucks.
Amazing show though. Really, really good show. I'll have to look for the one where he looks at the camera. All right, let's see what we got here. Elizabeth Carmela Comedian says, hey, Tim and gang, the other weeks you shouted out my son Orion. Blew his mind, thank you. We live in Northern Cali, Solano County specifically. Don't believe what you see on the news. We are voting Newsom out. I'm voting in person. All right.
Perfect.
Nice.
There you go.
Yes.
Let's see it.
Nice.
Let's do
I'm
it.
feeling good. Sketchum says, PA Trucker here. I haven't had work the past couple of days due to no workers at warehouses to load or unload trailers. Oh, man, it's coming. It's getting crazy.
It's not good.
Matt Ram says, do we trust the same people that approved the medication that started the opioid epidemic? No, Luke, I puke. I bought 9 chickens for our roosters. Whoa, that's too many
Oh,
roosters,
that is
dude.
too many.
Luke's coming back soon.
Rooster war.
He's coming back soon.
You better.
As for trusting people, the issue with the opioid epidemic was not the FDA. It was the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors just like dishing them out. And they were like encouraged to prescribe medication, weren't they? Something like that. I don't know the full story. It was like a big investigative piece on it. Look, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of the FDA and like revolving door policies of like the head of this pharmaceutical company gets a job in the government or anything like that. But I think the opioid one is like telling people like to take a medication that turned out to be extremely addictive and problematic.
Yeah, they didn't frame them as addictive. That was a big part of the problem. They sold them to kids, like little kids too, young kids, oxycodone, OxyContin, and then kids were coming down with hardcore addictions. Then they'd look for the next biggest thing. Then all of a sudden fentanyl gets developed.
Oh, man, yeah.
Probably as a result or...
Fentanyl's from China.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Kevin Pilgrim says, Chris says he is bad at speaking. I absolutely love him as an in-house guest. Great job, Tim Pham.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. It's awesome.
OMG Puppy says, you can buy Leffe Absinthe. It's legal now. It definitely has a mild cannabis-like high in addition to the alcohol. I served some at a party, and there were some strange revelations, like a truth serum.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
Interesting.
That was my experience with it too, with the wormwood.
Wow.
Really?
It's mild psychoactive, so you get the THC kind of wavy understanding along with the alcoholic subdual.
Jeez.
Jason Lindholm says, watched your Cast Castle video of you all getting musical equipment and gear. Jealous. I want to jam with you and everyone. There's a bunch of stuff with the music. It's we license music for some of the stuff we do. We want to make our own. We want to just generally produce music. I've got a bunch of songs I need to produce, but we're thinking like in-house for all of the. We've got 3 new podcasts on the horizon, and we're going to make our own music, so that we don't got to worry about licensing or rights or copyright strikes or anything like that. And we want to have live shows, so we just need the equipment and the production. The speaker systems we got are so we can do the live shows outside, and then we got one so we can do live shows in the basement. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think Andreas got a song featured in the vlog yesterday. I think that was one of his.
Nice.
Oh, yeah?
Couldn't tell you. It sounds like his style.
There you go. I think so.
Crazy digital Helena art.
Yeah.
Helena.
Oh, see, here we go. Michael Adkin says Fast and Furious should team up with Transformers.
Yes.
There we go.
That
No
sounds
guys would be able to
very
stay
epic.
away.
All right. Tate Story says, hey, Tim and crew, 20-year-old guy and wanted to make a change and joined the Mises Caucus of Utah. Also, you're wrong. The Jazz Master is the best guitar. Also, if you're in the need of another animator, I would love to be of use. Eventually, yes, and more animators. I tried the Jazz Master. It was good. So they have the Acoustasonics. They're like, I don't know how to describe it. They're not just acoustics. But they're more like electrics. I don't know. They're amazing. They all sounded great. They were all really, really amazing. The Jazz. So I would say the Telecaster I thought sounded the best, then the Jazz Master, and then the the Stratocaster. It's a close tie, though. I think the issue with the Jazzmaster was that it did sound really, really good, but I just am partial to the Telecaster, I guess. So maybe that's a fair. Maybe that is true to say the Jazzmaster is better. I think it's just personal preference at that point. But I was really impressed with the Jazzmaster, to be completely honest. I was like, wow. Sean Anderson says Fast and Furious 1 is Point Break with cars, and I love it. That's right.
Point Break, great movie.
Aiden says, will you guys have Charles Hiskinson on as a guest? Cardano has exploded recently. Yeah, we've been meaning to do that.
Hoskinson, yeah.
Hoskinson.
Standing
yeah.
invite. He just needs to reach out to me.
Cardano has a bright future. I don't know. I still have not been reading a lot about it in the last couple of years. But
I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
I have a decent amount of Cardano 88 tokens.
Hoskinson's a visionary.
I mean, he was a part of Ethereum. So it's just, I look at a lot of the altcoins as like stock. You know, it's not necessarily, there's like utility tokens and stuff. But Bitcoin is decentralized crypto. Everything else is Monero and stuff, I guess. But a lot of these altcoins are like stock. Mr. Laxative says, what's the ETA in the Timcast app? Oh, man, probably months. I have no idea. We're working on it, you know, so that people can listen to the episodes and everything. We needed to start, we need to start uploading audio versions of the members only stuff so people don't have to use a lot of bandwidth and, you know, make it easier. I will say, though, the Brave browser has the ability to play a video and then sleep your phone, turn the screen off, and still listen. So apparently that people were saying that's a solution if you want to listen to the episodes without your phone being on the whole time. Let's see. James Oldages says, please look into Right to Repair and discuss it with Louis Rossman. It's an issue we can all get behind.
Another standing invite.
Absolutely.
Needs to follow up with me.
I bet that's a bigger deal than I realized. Right to Repair.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk to Louis.
Yeah.
Louis. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We'll do a couple more here. Jumping down. Oh, I see somebody asking us if we've heard of Yuri Bezmenov. We have.
Oh, yes, we have.
Yuri Bezmenov.
Yeah, put a nickel in the
It's a
Bezmenov
Russian
door.
ex-KGB. It's kind of a joke. People ask that a lot.
Every
Do you know who he
single
is?
show.
No, I don't.
He worked with the KGB and like came out in the 90s and told America like the communist motive is a long 80-year plan, 20-year plan where they will go in and seed your culture and transform the culture from the grassroots and then take over the country that way. Wow. And it's been going on in the United States for like 20 plus years. He was telling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Sorta says, Tim, Americans can make whatever medical choices they want. It's called against medical advice. There are federal laws protecting it. No matter how you choose to live, you are free to choose how you live. I'm 100% for people making their life choices. I wouldn't want to make a medical decision for anybody.
I'll have to look up the AMA rules.
And that's why I'm like, bro, if I was in a zombie apocalypse and people were like, I'm fine with it, I'll be like, I'll leave. That's the thing, too. Like, remember the smoking? You could smoke in bars. They banned it all. I don't smoke. I hate smoke. I hate being around people who smoke. And I was against banning smoking in bars and restaurants. So in Chicago, when they were doing it, I was young, but I would always talk to people, and I'm like, why? If you don't like smoke, don't go to the bar. And I had friends be like, yeah, but that's BS, because I'm like, I can never go to the bar because people always smoke. And I'm like, yeah, that's too bad for you, I guess. If the bar is okay with it, don't go there, and that's too bad for you.
We talked about this before. The employees, it screws the employees too.
Quit.
Yeah, it's not that easy though. Just because one idiot wants to smoke a cigarette in the back of a room and destroy the entire
your
restaurant's
boss
atmosphere.
says it's okay and they're allowed to do it, and you're like, I'll keep working here.
Yeah, if the boss is like
No.
an unhealthy smoker and doesn't care, but all the employees are getting sick because people are smoking in the restaurant. That's pretty gross.
There's no obligation to the employees or the employer between each other. It's a contractual. It's an agreement.
Well, the manager. You might be right that it's more of an owner decision.
If you are like, I would like to work at this bar, but oh no, people are smoking. Maybe you shouldn't work there. To be like, well, I'm going to unilaterally decide no one's allowed to smoke anymore. Like, okay, dude, you can just leave. People are enjoying the place.
They used to smoke on airplanes. I was watching
that. I understand.
Old images, so gross.
You can't leave an airplane, and you don't know that people are going to be smoking when you go on the airplane.
You're trying to eat when you're at a restaurant, and it's like, oh, I can't taste my food because I smell smoke.
Yeah,
it's just
gross.
not a.
I flew on a plane to Morocco that had ashtrays on it.
Were they smoking?
No. You weren't allowed to smoke.
Oh, it's
but
right
the
after.
plane was so old.
Yeah,
They
I
were
saw
ashtrays.
One
Yeah, there's still cigarette lights on planes.
Airplanes are different. Okay?
Definitely.
But I do recognize that it's not a one-for-one issue where it's just like either you allow businesses to allow smoking or you don't. Bars are different.
Right.
You can walk into a bar and walk right out. You go onto a plane and you're stuck on that plane for a long time. So I can certainly respect them being like, hey, we don't want people smoking on planes anymore. Plus the just general risks of being in the air and the smoke and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be brutal.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've done studies on if bars, if businesses are more or less profitable since they've banned indoor smoking. Nationwide, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's read one more here. We got Eddie. He says, hey, Tim, my super chat closed for some reason, so I'll donate again. The Afghan script reminds me of how the U.S. messed up in Allende, Mexico, and Los Zetas came and killed many. Also, would love to see you guys talk China with Lawai 86 and Serpensa. Also standing invites?
Yep, correct. 3 for 3. Woo.
Everybody, there's something you need to do right now. Right here at the Cast Castle, there is a sad Ian. But by pressing the like button today, you can ensure that the sad Ian will be a happy Ian.
It feeds me.
Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends if you really like it. Go to timcast.com. We're going to have a members only segment going up around 11 or so p.m. You can follow me at Timcast, and you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Bunch of new shows in the works. We just did a live read for the new Mysteries show. We were going over like style and stuff and directing. So that's coming soon, working on the branding of it. There's a lot that goes into making a show, you know. But I will say a lot of it we're just going to do. We're just going to like launch and just roll with it and then improve it through, you know, user comments and try and do a good job. So check it out. And yeah, smash that like button. You want to shout out your social media, Chris?
Yeah, Chris Karr 17 on Twitter, and you can find the work of my work and the work of our amazing staff at timcast.com. Read the news.
Look at that.
It's great work.
Yeah.
Awesome team.
Promotion.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
You can follow me at iancrossland.net and at Ian Crossland. Check out that vlog at the Cast Castle from yesterday. I did sing a little bit. A lot of times Tim and I will be rehearsing, and then we get footage of it, and it's cool, like behind the scenes, chilling. But you also got to know, like, if I'm rehearsing music, it's basically like you're gonna smell me while I'm working out. It's the grossest sound. I'm working it out. You know, that's not the final product, but you can watch if you want and enjoy.
Yeah, we're going to be recording a new song soon.
It is so good.
That one song.
Dude, and Carter Banks is excited about it.
Yeah, our new producer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got a bunch of songs, and people are always like, "Oh, that's the one." I'm like,
That was great that he grabbed that other one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice,
This
'cause
one's I never recorded.
It was just one that Tim and I had knocked around harmonies on for a while, but I hadn't thought to put it in the top 3 that we would do first. But Carter was like, "That's the one." All right,
Interesting.
we got a producer.
All right.
Nice.
Exciting times over here at Timcast and timcast.com. It's really fun to see all this stuff come together, and I'm really hoping that Chris will be a repeat offender on our show here, as he now has no choice because he works with us. You guys should follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lids as I attempt to gain more followers than Sour Patch Kids.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com. So become a member. We'll see y'all there around 11 or so p.m.
Bye, guys.